the Oh, this combo has been so present within the West League, and it offers so much greatness, right? Like, honestly, the dive into the backline for both of these heroes is huge. But not only that, you got Pei laying down the smackdown with that stacked damage. You've got Byron with the knock-up as well. But OG's like, boy, we're going blow for blow here. Orgrin coming through for OG Esports. Dao coming in with this one.
Dao is making a statement here because he is very well aware of how much a good Pei performance can set behind an Ogren and prevent them from coming online. But we have seen time and time again that Dao has willingly taken the Ogren in the face of, other teams either picking enough CC or something that is more early game minded to try and shut down this Ogren. And Dao just finds a way to get those resources safely in and still become that Ogren.
I was gonna shiver down my spine, Rafa. This is the first game in the series we've seen Keke not prio ban the Guan Yu, but his opponents have. So they know how much of a prio pick this is for him. But it also means that Keke is not playing his Keke mind games, which we've been seeing for the rest of the West League. And Twisted Mind's like, hey, bro, we know where game recognizes game. We're not gonna give you the horse this time around. Guan Yu would be a great access once more to the side of OG Esports, especially pairing it with Dao going onto a more tankier Orgrim pick into the jungle, right? But over to OG Esports, banning out the Motsu, banning out the Lady Chen. Two huge picks to stop the complete motion of the ocean for Orgrin. Cannon Blast, the Destructive Deluge, really stops his hero in his pits.
And OG Esports, even though that they're not able to get the Guan Yu for Keke, his third most favorite hero is the Charlotte. Still thinking about it in case he wants to flip a switch and go for something different. Still buying some time in case OG Esports want to think about what they're going to pick for their farm lane for On, since it is the only one that has yet to be revealed. Twisted Minds now have to round out this composition, already have that late game insurance policy with the Long, as well as the early game power from the side of Pei and Byron on the top side of the map.
Yeah, oh, interesting combo here. The Aria and the Loom. Very, very interesting. And the Hino coming through as well. That's going to be the mid lane pick for Hylang.
Blam, I'm going to wait until it's locked in before we talk about this two hero combinations. Yeah, that's one of them. Hang on. Oh my goodness. Okay, Hino is here. Blam. I had a discussion with Yumuz about this hero yesterday. At first, I was like, I don't recognize this. What does this guy do? And then, as Yumuz was telling me what is in this hero's arsenal, I was like, oh my goodness, I have played against this hero in solo queue before. It is one of the most frustrating experiences possible. It is crazy that we're getting to see it in pro play today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it becomes even more frustrating if it was paired with the Dolia, but no, we're getting the Lianpo, right? The Lianpo with the Tremor Smash is going to be a huge way to try and douse Dao. Get a bit of a pit stop for the Dao onto the Orgrin, and again, like you were saying there, hyping up the Hino pick, the poke potential from this pick is huge, as well as his Fate Rewind as well. Just being able to kind of zip across the map, also be able to recover turrets as well. So if you Fate Rewind at a certain time just before a turret takedown, you get the turret back to life, baby. That is one of the most unique heroes in Honor of Kings Esports and Honor of Kings in general.
It's just an insane game mechanic in any title that I've ever played before. It's just like, I've never heard of a turret resurrection. What the heck? That is bonkers, but I'm so excited to see it in action for Twisted Minds. And when you are going up against the other sole undefeated team in the league, a favorite to win the entire tournament, you gotta pull out some, fancy shenanigans like this.
I mean, with it being a best of 3 as well, right? Like we were having this discussion before the stream. Best of 3, we're not seeing those picks that come from Season 3 Invitational because this one started on a best of 5 format. Best of 3 is where we start to see those big power picks come from in the first round, and then they just mitigate into the second game, whether they ban out those big picks for the enemy team or they devise something a little bit more different onto their team's draft, just so they don't show all their cards going into the next stage, which will be a best of 5, which will really test a lot of these global esports teams as well. But here it is, the draft for game 1 between both OG Esports and Twisted Minds. This is going to be a showdown and a half. Again, in terms of the draft, in terms of where my favorite is going to be here, it's very hard to call, right? This is down to those lane matchups.
Yeah, and it really comes down to Twisted Minds Pei and Byron combo? How much can they achieve in the early game? Because we talked about how this matchup can swing, and some of the other teams have not been able to pull it off against the likes of Twisted Minds and OG Esports when they're the ones with the Augur, they're the ones with the scaling jungler, because it feels like these two teams wrote the playbook, they wrote the script on how to maneuver some of the early pressure junglers like Pei to shut down those scaling junglers. But now it is truly a test of wits, a test of map play from both of our top teams, as KK already in trouble, forced to flash away.
Yeah, I mean, baiting him with the fire beak there. He's like, hey guys, I'm taking a little bit of your jungle here. Are you going to stop me? Are you? Are you? And then all of it's nowhere. Shanks comes out with the flaming palms, almost taking down Keke. They've got to be careful into that clash lane, right? So again, we're seeing here that Dao is just looking to farm up a little bit more into the mid lane. And definitely a little bit of an MO when you go for the Pei as well, right? Just trying to get as much resources into the mid lane as well.
And the long actually rotate towards the top side to help get that push in for 90. Looked like Wen was trying to set up a trap, gets a little bit of chip damage off of Shanks, does successfully do so, force him to pick up the healing relic behind the tower. But right now, Keke's still got to be careful because the flash is still down for another minute and a half. If there is a window where Twisted Minds can just pry open the early game off the power of Clean's Pei, that would be the angle.
Yeah, I mean, the issue here as well is that obviously Shanks exhausted the flash to try and get Keke, but didn't get it. So now, Dao knows this, but
Yep. Oh, the quick flash went off, but it's not enough. Clean is able to weave in one last auto attack. First blood for the side of Twisted Minds, and that's where it comes down to, Blam. The early prio from Byron, the fact that Keke doesn't have a flash, cannot make that safe rotation over to the mid lane, and that just opens up the map for Twisted Minds to pounce.
Yeah, huge. I mean, again, just intel coming into all these teammates, knowing when their common skills have been taken off is so crucial in the early game for these teams, because again, it just opens you up to the most susceptible of ganks, which normally could be mitigated from these common skills, but you just don't have that privilege.
Now Keke trying to fight back now that flash is coming back off cooldown in just under a few seconds here. OG, the game is not over yet, but it's a great start for Twisted Minds. Still time for the objectives to start spawning in the next minute. Some pressure from Twisted Minds trying to revisit Keke, see if they can continue to leverage that against him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we're looking at here, the XP lead between the jungle is actually pretty much neck and neck. Both of them, Clean and Dao, went 7 at the same time. They are literally they are making the masterclass here for both cases, like for the Augur, for the Pei, and we've seen it historically and statistically that these two junglers are definitely two of the best within the West League. But Sunrise going up into the mid lane here, maybe a bit of a clash, just a little bit of a tip and tap for this minion wave just to try and equalize it. We are getting those neutral objectives up in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, and while it is, definitely unfortunate, hang on, maybe a fight here. Good setup. Muchen trying to jump onto 90, and he just falls right into the waiting arms of Dao, who makes a quick rotation and cuts off his escape route. OG equalized the board.
Yeah, once again, knowing that the common skill was off, it was just like, hey guys, we got to go in onto 90 here. We got to get a pickup. We need that kill on the board to neutralize the gold lead. And Dao's in the enemy jungle as well.
Using the pressure and the rotations from the rest of OG Esports, they yoink away the blue buff away from Clean's Pei, and no one from the side of Twisted Minds gets a chance to collapse fast enough.
No one at all, right? I mean, they're able to get the Azure Golem, which is pretty huge for the side of OG Esports. Dao getting his own Azure Golem as well as his enemy's Azure Golem is going to slow down Clean, but it's not going to completely mitigate it. He does get the neutral objective. He does get the Tyrant, so a lot of damage going up to Shanks, going up to Clean, and it's going to be a hard hitting for the side of OG for Twisted Fate. Now,
Tremor Smash, they're making the dive under the tier 1 turret. Wen tries to slow it down with the World Is My Board, and suddenly CT Boy finds himself a little too far forward. It does open up the tier 1 to be taken by Twisted Minds off the back half. Is he in trouble? Nope. Fate Rewind. Yep. That ability is going to be in my nightmares.
Yeah, so we saw here that OG Sports definitely caught out sussed out the problem here, right? We saw City Boy going into the back line. He was just basically as a distraction to take the T1 down into the farm lane. But it was, however, Keke was like, guys, I'm not going to come with you. I know this is a distraction, so I'm going to trade equally across the gorge. So the T1 into the clash lane means that Keke can be a little bit more involved in these fights for the next few minutes, right? Got to play carefully because they still have about 28 seconds on this Tyrant buff.
OG just trying to fish for another pick when getting chunked out super low. Throws down the World is my board. The infinite vastness. Yeah, he can reposition, but he cannot quite escape it until the very bitter end. Shanks just barely escaping danger from the side of OG Esports with the pick, but they continue the chase. The blue buff is the target. Dowd getting super low and just overestimating how long he could survive. Twisted Minds sinking their fangs into Dowd's back.
Yeah, I mean, even though that's happened, right, the fact that the gold lead's still in the favor of OG Esports is something that Twisted Mind needs to turn that kill into, is garnering that gold lead, because they aren't going to have the Augur, and they're not going to be having Dowd. It's going to be the driving force of amassing those resources. A little bit of a 1v1 going up to the clash lane there. Nothing really coming on it. None of them are really battered or bruised. Keke looking about 3/4 health there for the moment. Teleporting to the bot side of the map, just trying to stop this wave into the T2. They don't want to make sure they lose any T2s, especially that farm lane one for now.
The fact that Dowd has been able to keep up his farm despite all of the early pressure that Twisted Minds was able to find in the first few minutes of the game is giving OG Esports still that strong win condition that allows them to feel like they can eclipse the power of this pay early on. Because once we get into that 10-minute mark and this Ogryn has 1-2 items under his belt, I mean, that's cool what you did clean early on the pay, but we all know what happens when Dowd gets online with his Ogryn.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at stuff like Eye of the Phoenix, right? Like the HP regen item. That really needs to come here through for Dowd before he starts to get optimal sort of HP regen from the Conductor of Souls, Ogryn's ultimate. So again, waiting for that moment, that crucial online activity means that his team fight potential becomes a little bit more better. But over to the side of Twisted Minds, they could be building quite a lot of anti-heal, right? They could be building Blazing Cape. Oh, Liampo going in.
Fishing for the engage. World is my board now going to lock him in, and no one else can save him. CT Boy just a little too bold on the engage, was trying to set it up for the rest of his team. Maybe OG Esports stepping too far forward, but they dash back away, go right back in. Shanks just keeping his distance because he does not want to mess with OG Esports at this stage of the game. A little too far forward, but quick flash by Nighty escapes the last breath of death there. OG Esports still just pushing the power of this composition to the faces of Twisted Minds, and they are playing with fire. Man, this game is already a banger.
Yeah, I feel like if they pressured Shanks there in the brush a little bit quicker, I mean, yes, he does have the infinite fastness, so they know that they have the intel on that ultimate, so rather than using everything and trying to expand and take down Shanks, they knew that infinite fastness was there, so a bit of an early push. I redact my statement. OG Esports know what they're doing. I didn't see that first, but yeah, again, good job that they did go into that one, but at the same time, they're able to get the kill on City Boy, but also get the T1 down into the farm lane. So again, I think overall for a trade, OG Esports came out on top of that one.
Yeah, the gold lead slightly in their favor. No one has really broken open the game super wide yet. Gold is my board, locks down CT Boy on the Liampo. Tyrant started up by OG Esports. Lamp, I just have to say, this game has been so completely different than any other game we have witnessed in the Kings Major West League. It almost looks like we're looking at a completely different league.
It's a different class, this one. I mean, this is the two top teams, right? Statistically, that's just not from opinion. This is basically all based in stats. I am not going to get blamed for giving an opinion. This is completely backed up with evidence. So OG Esports going against Twisted Mind is definitely a different piece, a different taste of gravy, right?
Yeah. When two beasts collide, you really are going to see a lot of fire and so many explosions between, and limits really being tested, really being pushed. Nighty being patient, waiting in this pixel brush, finds Keke, forced to potentially retreat here, and now Nighty, does he have a way out? CT Boy on the Liampo tries to buy that escape route, but just cannot do it successfully, and now he dies for the sins of Nighty. OG Esports picking up 2 back-to-back picks.
Yeah, 90 and City Boy both going down. That's a huge amount of front line for Twisted Minds for now. We do have a minion wave crashing into the side of the farm lane as well. This means that OG Esports can take a concise T2 as well as looking to take in the Crimson Golem to the side of Twisted Minds. But it's clean. Like, hey guys, if you're going to steal mine, I'm going to steal yours. I'm just going to be fruitful with my rotation. Shanks here gets slow, but even fastness is available. He can get it this scot-free, but not the T1, however.
These turrets are starting to fall one by one from the side of OG Esports. The fact that they've survived the early blitz of Twisted Minds in the first few minutes of the game, the fact that they haven't let that many turrets go down, they are in pretty darn good control of the Gorge right now. Twisted Minds now trying to play catch up as the gold lead continues to grow.
Yeah, we see City Boy just using the Tremor Smash to actually get out. The world is my board, right? So again, using defensively because they don't want to lose City Boy too early, especially now. The fact that OG Esports has the Shadow Tyrant onto the board as well means that they're going to have a lot more damage over the Arn, a lot of damage over the Wen as well as Keke. So they've got to be careful as they approach this next fight for the side of Twisted Minds. They are down by their overall 3k gold, which is definitely a few tier 3 items going up to the side of OG Esports. They have to be careful.
And one of the things that we've talked about when you operate a composition that involves Pei and Byron, if the early game doesn't go completely your way, you don't find that snowball that you're looking for, you have to resort to split pushing because you have the mobility to be able to push the solo lane as Pei, draw pressure from the side of OG Esports. But it doesn't seem like the Twisted Minds have gotten a chance to really set that up yet.
Not quite yet, not quite yet. I mean, onto the side of Shanks, though, we do see that he's got the Starbreaker, so again, this is going to be a lot more troublesome for the side of OG Esports, especially those tanks, right? This is an anti-tank item coming through for their side. Wolves on the board has been committed, catches out 3, but they were able to actually get the Crimson Golem as well over the side of OG Esports, so very fruitful rotations coming through for them right now. They are definitely trying to own Twisted Minds jungle.
Well, they're definitely owning it, all right. OG Esports have full access to it, and they're leaving no crumbs behind either for Twisted Minds to pick up. The Shadow Overlord being ripped apart by OG Esports, and there's just not a chance for Twisted Minds to get in and contest. Hylong trying to step on forward, and as well as CT Boy, but unfortunately making the engage with no damage behind you is just too hard to make this fight possible. The infinite vastness from Shanks just to escape danger from the rest of OG Esports, making the collapse happen, and they are still rocking with 5 against 4.
Yeah, but this is just an ode to OG Esports damage, right? The fact that City Boy used the Tremor Smash but didn't get that third connect to get that huge knockup, which would have been such a turnaround for the team fight. It's just like, boom, down goes Muchin. They gotta be careful, clean.
Okay, Keke just buying space, and you know what? OG Esports just making sure that they can at least get the high ground turret, but now they have to make the exit retreat. Thankfully for Death's first skill to be able to just space glide on through into the base, push off Twisted Minds, guarantee the escape of the rest of his comrades, as then he makes the escape route out. The Shadow Vanguard doing enough damage to take out the tier 2 turret in the mid lane, and just like that, blam, the gold lead is now over 6,000.
Again, it's in the realms of a comeback here for Twisted Minds. If it was any other team, it would be a little bit harder, but the way they just need to navigate these team fights is make sure that City Boy doesn't get taken down too early on. We definitely need to see some damage behind those Tremor Smashes. We need to be seeing the baits of the CC skills from the side of OG Esports being mitigated by the Magma Slammer and whatnot. But right now, we definitely need to start seeing some items come online for Twisted Minds as well towards the end of this game, as it's definitely approaching, right? It is steady, it's shaky, there's a calm before the storm.
Rewind by Han Long on the Hano, able to escape danger once again. Twisted Minds, I feel like all eyes are on Shanks. This is the late game insurance policy that you drafted for yourself. If the early game was not snowballed to the way that you were planning, this is now where maybe a comeback can still be made. But OG Esports, I feel like their targets are always also going to be looking at the long as well. The Shadow Tyrant being burned down. Tremor Smash not getting a chance to get a lot of value there. World is my board, cutting off the members from Twisted Minds from being able to defend 90, who is just picked off and isolated. OG Esports continue their dominance on the board.
Yeah, I mean, Nighty's just not had any access into the backline. This is another problem for the side of Twisted Minds, right? Like, normally this is a Byron. This is where the flash, the second skill, the knock-up from the first skill, and then that's when your force loads of pressure comes through. And that's when you try and pick up these squishy picks like the Lady Sun, like the Yixing, but there's just been no fruitfulness for the side of Twisted Minds, and now the enhanced minions come through.
Oh man, the enhanced minions doing enough damage that they took out the turret not once but twice, because you saw the bait rewind from Hylong trying to save it from going down, but he's gonna fall anyway to On's Lady Sun. Rest of OG Esports routing and completely grasping this game away from Twisted Minds. They stranglehold it away, and it's game 1 going to OG Esports.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a little bit of a different taste for the side of OG Esports there. I swear, I just saw Dao sweat. He got his palms, and he ran them on his trousers. He was like, oh, that was different. There was a bit of heat behind that one.
Yeah, and even though that eventually OG Esports come away with the win, this was definitely one of the more challenging games that OG Esports have had to deal with in terms of surviving the early game because, you know, to Twisted Mind's credit, they found a lot of great early game picks on the top side. They know that Clean on the pay was very well accelerated. It was just very lucky and also just well played by Dowd to keep himself also relatively well farmed on the Ogren. I feel like if they didn't have that, you know, contingency policy, we might have been looking at a different mid game there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I was saying there towards the end, we didn't really see much from 90 actually trying to get access into the backline. Byron is all about that, and then making use of that access to the backline is where we see the lunge from Pay come through, and then just stealing that, just so much damage, right, is definitely where those combos start to shine. But the fact is, Dowd was already there. Muchin was already circulating towards the front side of these team fights. So whenever we saw City Boy trying to go in for the big engage, he was going to be met by that enhanced basic attack, being slowed as well, and then also being hit with a better farewell. So again, it just kind of just really stopped the utility of this Liampo for the side of Twisted Minds. But it was definitely a valiant effort for the boys.
Let me take a look back at the post-game screen and see all the stats come through. Once again, it was a relatively back and forth game, and for the first few minutes you could see, even though that the kill score wasn't as high by the time we got to the closing of that first game of the series, there was so much action that was happening. Both of the teams testing each other's limits, posturing each other, throwing out abilities, trying to wait until the very last possible second before flashing away or committing an ultimate to get themselves out of danger. And when you look at all the, you know, matters considered at the end of the day, you know, you could tell that Twisted Minds were at least very close to knocking OG Esports down to pay. But once you lose steam with an early game composition like this, once you lose ground for being able to set up that front line for Shanks on the long, it just feels so hard to actually come back against the OG Esports composition they drafted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw there that Highline was actually ahead of the damage over Shanks there. So again, Hino getting more damage than the Lung is probably predetermined because we weren't getting all those items come through onto Shanks just yet. He was only peaked by about 9k damage, which would have obviously come into fruition as the game went on. But if you look at here, this is probably been one of the most contested kind of gold graphs between Twisted Minds or OG Esports overall, right? And then if we look at the different strategy resources there, you can see a much more heavier, intense macro play from the side of OG Esports. On most times was out of the team fight, especially towards that early to mid game, taking those early T1s into the side lane. We saw him up to the clash lane, able to get that one as well, as we saw City Boy go down into the mid lane. So really Arm playing a great masterclass here as a farm lane, not only playing great with the damage, but also the macro. But overall, MVP is none other than the Dowd himself. He must be amassing so many MVPs right now within the West League. It's looking like he's just collecting them, right? Collecting them like badges.
Yeah, he is. If MVPs were rings, he would have all of his fingers, you know, anointed with jewelry at this point. I think it's been that many. Maybe we're not quite there yet. Would have to go back through the amount of games that they have played and actually count them all up. But Dowd being able to survive an early oppressive state from the likes of Pay. I mean, he is, for me, the best player in the Major West League. So he knows more than anyone how quickly a game can just completely go awry if you give too much ground to the likes of a Byron Pay combo. And he's always, you know, I joked about it earlier. If he's playing the Ogren and he sees, you know, his farm lane getting dove or his flash lane getting dove, you know, maybe jokingly he's saying, I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry, you know, that's your problem. It's not mine. I got to farm up and continue getting my resources in, because he knows that's his win con. If he tries to bail out his team when he's not strong enough personally, then you're just feeding more fire to the flame that could have been Twisted Minds early game composition.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I do want to put like a bit of a shine onto City Boy. Obviously, Liam Pope into this draft was pretty huge, right? A great counter for Dowdow onto the Orgrin. But the fact there's just so much burst damage coming over from the side of OG Esports. It's like they knew that from that time in the early game where we saw City Boy dive into the backside between the T1 and the T2, just so they were able to kind of be a bit of a distraction to get one of the T1s onto the side of Twisted Minds. It just was a little bit, it felt a bit short to the pale. But speaking of that, we are going to go to a break so these boys can discuss what went wrong and what they can do in game 2 and potentially take it to a best of 3. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're on to a banger.
Sound of the rain. No matter how I feed the flame, you know I feel the darkness and the pain. All of the ways we tried to break free from the night, you know we made it out, we found the light. I fly so high, light up the skyline. Let's do it this time, like it's a whole new vibrant world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Now I see that I got everything I need. It's alright, I'm on fire, I'm alive, 'cause now I fly so high, light up the skyline. Let's do it this time, like it's a whole new colorful world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world. Never thought we'd get this far, burning like the stars. How we get this far, like we're the only ones in this world. Like we're the only ones in this world.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready for game number 2 between our OG Esports and Twisted Minds, the match of the week. And the game 1 did not fail to deliver, Blam. We saw Twisted Minds try to take the early game oriented composition with the pay, with the Byron, a little bit of that late game insurance policy in the long, something that OG Esports are very familiar with and, dare I say, wrote the playbook on. And Twisted Minds definitely, you know, an adopter of that and using it to success against other teams. But when they tried it against OG Esports, they found those early game leads, but not enough to bring them down.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing it time and time again from OG Esports. They've been drafting that combo themselves, right? So they were pretty much like, check please. We know how this one plays out. We wrote the book on this one for the West League, and we thought better of you. We really thought better of you, Twisted Minds. So honestly, there's a little bit more of jest between these two teams, it feels like, but also the respect onto the Gorge as well is definitely something that it's been paid for onto the side of Twisted Minds, right? Like OG Esports is like, right, we cannot underestimate these guys. They got first blood onto us. We have to make sure that we are at least bringing another like 50-60% into our roster now, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and for OG Esports, I loved how you called out at the end of the game, DowDow, a quick glimpse over on his player cam, wiping the sweat off of his trousers there. It wasn't an easy game for the side of OG Esports. It really did come down to just really decisive and methodical control in that mid game, where it was a composition they had drafted that was going to get better and better the later the game went on, and they just had to survive the early game storm.
They did. They had to survive it. I mean, they survived it to an extent, right? But where the survival rate actually starts to show here is in this draft, and we're going into game 2 draft between both Twisted Minds and OG Esports here. What are we going to be seeing? Are we going to be seeing some more of the paid bans come through like it is here already? It was already set up between previous matchups against OG Esports, but Twisted Minds was like, hey, I've tried the pay, I'm not going to give it over to DowDow. But there's still so much in DowDow's facility that they could go for, right? I mean, we've seen fantastic performances on the fade. Could this be a fade game?
You know, I'm not sure if he's ready to hit Twisted Minds with that level of disrespect, because I'm not convinced that Fade is a hero that works against the best teams in the league. It seems like that's just kind of like a for fun pick that DowDow has been able to lock in, because to my knowledge, it hasn't really been experimented with other squads so far. And OG, since the pay is gone, they're going to respect that they should take the Ogryn off the table away from Clean, but the first pick that is available could be that Dharma.
Yeah, the Dharma coming through here is probably one of the nicest, biggest picks. He loves this pick. Even in KC 2024, he was all about this. It was one of the sort of like go-to shining performances from this young Clash laner, but it does mean my Shiranui did survive the first phase ban, and it is going to be Wen picking that up, because if Wen didn't pick it up right now, it would definitely be over to Hailang.
OG Esports even getting a little bit of more early game power if they lock in this D-Red, something that Mon can at least control and have early priority on in the laning phase. But Twisted Minds, what is their answer into this? Don't tell me it's going to be the Chano.
I mean, it could come through here, right? I mean, it is a good way to try and dodge out the Imperial Order as well. Not laying down that CC is something that Chano doesn't want to be at fault of. And same here, going for the Q1, being able to try and dodge out that ultimate from on the D-Ranger is going to be pretty huge. But here it is, the flashy playstyle that we know DowDow is tried and tested with. Wrote the book on, is going in with the Luna. We've seen two different kind of playstyles with DowDow on the Luna. When we saw KK draft the Guan Yu was taking the Heed, whereas we saw the Luna playstyle from DowDow being a little bit more of an intel gathering kind of, well, I'm going to sit in the brush, I'm going to tell you where the enemy team is for you, and I'm going to serve up the meals. I am daddy for the day.
Yeah. Things on my bucket list, hearing Blam say daddy on podcast, you know, and I'm going to check that one off. I thought I was going to have to really work to get you to say that one, but bans for the second round coming through now, both the Dune and the Musashi, just viable, strong tank junglers for the side of Clean, and especially for something like the Musashi, not just, you know, a frontline member, but also a powerful diver trying to no longer will have access to the CC, whereas Twisted Minds getting rid of powerful support options for the side of OG Esports, and they're just going to go for the Byron for now. And nice answer into Dharma, but it does leave the cards open for what Mu Chen's pick will be. Oh my god.
Oh, are we getting it, Rafa? Are we getting the Prince of Wrangling potentially?
Gonna be locked in. I'm not gonna get baited. 20 seconds on the clock.
I mean, this would be good.
Countries borders with my blade.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
You finally
Prince of Wrangling! It's locked in, baby! It's on broadcast! Sika is the only other player that has locked in this hero in the tournament. I'm so sorry. This is by far my favorite hero to play when I play solo queue. Oh, I'm so excited to see it here.
It's really good, right? I mean, the fact that the silence comes through from the Prince of Landling as well, it also has, when you go into the ultimate state, you do get a broader area of vision as well. So again, in terms of intel, this is where Clean may be trying to play that kind of playstyle, but also using the silence onto the likes of the Luna, trying to pick off the D-Ranger, as well as the Maisha Noise. So again, this could be a very fruitful pick for them, but I do like to see Mooch in here on the Motsu, right? The Cannon Blast, especially going into the Gunner Mo as well, is going to be trying to reach him. So those couple blades, those freshly forged couple blades, as we get into that level 4 mark that we know can shred any of these squishier heroes' health, is going to be where they're looking to try and land those cannon blasts. But over to the side of Twisted Minds, they've really got to try and give a bit of a cannon fodder over to that side, right? Like, make sure that Ganamo is not being caught out, because that is going to be a lot of burst damage taken off of your team if it gets caught out too early.
You know, Blam, that sounds cool and all, but we got Prince of Landling that's locked in. I'm still stuck on that point right now. Now, to follow up with what you were saying, that does make sense for the side of OG Esports, because it seemed like they were lacking in terms of possible engage and range, because the folly with D-Renja, powerful early game hero, right? The problem is his effective range of damage is kind of short unless you're able to stack up that passive, and even then it does tend to fall off in terms of safety against the likes of late game oriented farm laners, whereas, you know, the rest of OG Esports, it seems like, you know, Byron doesn't really have strong ways of engaging other than, you know, finding those flanks. And for Luna, it does put a lot of pressure on Dao Dao had he not had some additional CC setup. But those cannon blasts, if you can find a pick from range and if it looks good, then that's where OG Esports can spring the trap. But then again, Twisted Minds, you have to deal with now a ninja, someone lurking in the shadows, always running around the map waiting to strike.
Waiting to strike is exactly what he's going to be looking for, right? But at the same time, there's probably going to be a lot of like phase checking as well, especially with Muchen onto the Motsu. Could be another MO for this pick, right? Using the Cannon Blast to try and suss out where Clean is going to be hiding on this Prince of Landling. Could be a way that could be a great counter for the side of OG Esports, just to suss them out, to see like, hey, we could see where you are, gaining the intel here. Obviously, Dao Dao on the Luna as well is going to be a very high frames hero, trying to sort of like maybe trying to suss out, give a little bit of a intel over to the side of OG. So be like, hey, Muchen, landing Cannon Blast here. I know for a fact this is the money shot, and then that completely just stops the access into the backline, and then everyone could just dive in onto the Prince of Landling. But for your sakes, Rafa, I hope that isn't the case, because you like this pick, you want to see it to shine. Clean is on this one. If any hero or any player is going to make this pick shine, it's a player called Clean.
You know, Blam, you put up a very good point, and unfortunately, I'm also very aware of how volatile this hero can be. Packs a lot of damage, packs a lot of slipperiness, and being able to stealth his way across the map. However, if you pick a wrong engage to all in on, you have no way out once you commit with your secret skill strike, right? You are in the fight, and if you do not immediately finish them off, or you don't get the pop off of your second skill detonation mark, you're kind of screwed over, because you're super squishy on the Landling, unless there's another build out there that kind of makes him more of a bruiser, which I haven't really seen before. I've always been building him full glass cannon, and you know, I don't know, maybe that might be an adaptation that Clean is forced to make. But it seems like if you're going to pick an assassin, you have to all in. You have to get that snowball rolling, and you have to make sure that you are picking those assassination windows decisively.
Exactly, that's exactly what they're going to do. Prime opportunities for the Prince of Landling coming in here. But again, it is going to be all down to this draft as we go through into this game 2 between OG Esports and Twisted Minds. Look at that. We got the Chano, we got the Ganamo, we got the Dharma, as well as the Fuel One. Obviously, Fuel One is going to be there to try and bait a few of these skills from OG Esports, especially using the Unending Sorrow. But at the same time, CD Boy is going to be giving over quite a lot of healing and quite a lot of sustain onto the side of Twisted Minds. So again, it's all down to the execution for me.
Especially with the compositions that have been drafted by both teams here. We're on to the Gorge for a second game of our match of the week between Twisted Minds and OG Esports. If you're just tuning in now, welcome everyone. This is the Kings Major West League. It's a banger. It's our two best diff teams in the Major West League. Up until this series, they have been undefeated so far. Twisted Minds receiving their first game loss of the entire tournament. Credit to OG Esports.
I mean, if any team was going to do it, it was definitely OG Esports, right? Just statistically, evidently, they are one of the top dogs within this tournament. But at the same time, Twisted Minds still has room to breathe here. It's just going to be a little bit interesting to see how they actually gain the pressure onto them. But here comes Mucho with the cannon blast. Actually, with two of them, he was in between them. He had one shot, one opportunity, and it didn't land.
Damn. Spaghetti, mom spaghetti on his shirt already too. Twisted Minds, just being able to slip right on through and avoid the crucial CC that Buchen was trying to weave his way through. Already you're going to see Hailong and Wen being very proactive in their roams, trying to catch any rotations that are poorly made by either teams, but because of how solid, how good these two teams are, those windows have not presented themselves. Meanwhile, Clean has been farming up a storm on the Prince of Landling, now has access to that secret skill Strike, has not found a window yet to assassinate anyone, and it's got to be crucial because any of these windows here, you get that early snowball, and suddenly Prince of Landling feels super pressing to play against.
Yeah, gotta be careful here. Dowdow looking for a fast rotation. Wasn't quite expecting that movement speed increase that we've been seeing on the Gorge, which is a little bit of a passive, a bit of a time passive that comes through on the recent patch. But right now, if we're looking at this, I'm pretty sure when we saw the gold graph then, it was actually Dowdow that was ahead in terms of the gold lead in the jungle, but as well as the XP between both Dowdow and Clean. So Clean might have to play a little bit more of a faster rotation here, just so he gets a little bit more activated, does the damage a little bit more quicker. But right now, when just putting a bit of aggression onto Hailong, I feel like that's the whole point into this early game, right? Just making sure Hailong is checked rather than unchecked.
I will say, I'm not familiar with the matchup between Prince of Landling and Luna. So does Dowdow want to try and match a lot of the early pressure that Clean... Oh, wait a minute. Ball in on the bottom side. CT Boy had no chance to respond. It was just a quick collapse in First Blood going over to OG Esports.
Yeah, exactly. Not quick enough to respond there. It's going to be Muchin taking the first blood. Obviously, resources could have probably gone better elsewhere, but overall, it's globally going to be globally suited OG Esports to claim that one, right? Q1 off the table. City Boy is not going to be providing those healings to the bot side of the map. We see a bit of a contestant here into the Crimson Golem, but he's actually able to clean up his own Crimson Golem, which could have been huge for him. Oh, 90 trying to commit there, trying to scare Keke.
OG Esports, knowing the intel that Clean was on the bottom side of the map, were able to yoink away some camps here. A lot of damage onto Hailong's gone and Mo. Clean just picking up the mid wave. And Keke using the power of this Byron. The early priority, he's able to get the wave shoved in. And 90 cannot make the collapse upon him. So Keke always getting information on what is happening in this top jungle for Clean.
Yeah, he's prioritizing his wave play, but then also prioritizing the information he's giving over to the side of OG Esports, right? But I feel like this is a great pick from Muchin here. The cannon blast goes through, but there's a bit of fight on two fronts.
Secret skill, Shadow Strike. He finds the mark. Clean is able to find Wen. And it was almost a pick opportunity for the side of OG Esports, looking for Shanks as Muchin was able to find that cannon blast, which is not enough damage to follow up on the pick.
Yeah, that seemed like one of those moments, right, where Twisted Minds was like, hey guys, we know that Dowdow's bot side of the map. We need to take Wen now. If we don't strike, we lose a kill onto the board. And this is set up the neutral objective very well for Twisted Minds, able to take the neutral objective first round.
It's looking good, Blam. Clean finds his first kill on the board. He gets the first objective of the game. OG Esports haven't completely run away with the game on the bottom side of the map. Meanwhile, Pitcher and Pitcher on the top side, all the pressure subsided since 90 could not protect the tier 1. OG Esports able to at least take the first turret of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Taking the first turret of the game is going to be OG Esports, taking the T1 up into the Clash lane. So again, this gives a lot more pressure over to the side of Twisted Minds. It means that Keke definitely can be affordable to get out of the Clash lane, right? And just try and focus into these team fights. Try and lock down Hailong for his team. But right now, we are seeing the goal difference go over to the side of OG Esports. It's very slim, but it is a goal difference nonetheless. The kind of blast just connect. Oh, Wen!
Oh, great follow-up by Wen. Just not enough damage to finish off CT Boy. A quick pull of the flash allows the support for Twisted Minds to escape OG Esports still waiting for another play. Dowd waiting in the wings now. Here comes 90, but immediately jumped on by Dowd. He springs the trap. Patience is rewarded, and the OG jungler picks up a triple.
Yeah, Dowd getting a triple here is definitely a bit of a non-starter for Twisted Minds right now. They are definitely quaking in their boots, thinking, oh my gosh, we've done the inevitable. We've given Dowd the triple kill onto the Luna. And to be honest, they're not punishing the Luna the way they're meant to, right? They are leaving that Azure Golem unchecked. The Luna heavily sufficient on that.
Another pick in the mid lane, but quick burst by Hailong and Clean being able to find Muchen before Wen was able to follow up.
Yeah, right now we're seeing a bit of a teleport down to the mid lane here just to make sure to keep it clean. They don't want to lose T1 just yet into the mid lane, right? I mean, that could be a little bit of a turnaround for Twisted Minds in the early game because Lord knows they need to try and get something onto this Gorge, right? They don't have any turrets. They only have 2 kills going up to the side of Twisted Minds. And right now, that gold lead is definitely starting to flitter and maintain onto the side of OG Esports. And when you got picks like Luna coming through, when getting the itemizations as well, that's when this is going to start to become a lot more troublesome.
Yeah, and once again, we just find ourselves in a similar story that was in game 1, where Twisted Minds able to find some really strong early game picks, specifically for Clean. Unfortunately for him, Dowd just is able to one-up him. This time, it's not just getting farm for himself, he finds a massive triple kill, and now this Luna is just as big of a threat, if not bigger, than the current Prince of Landling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the burst damage alone is just going to be absolutely wild for the side of OG Esports. Dowd is just playing such a fast, aggressive game. Giving access to the enemy jungle as well means that he's just going to get fatter quicker on this Luna. And they're looking to approach the T2 here. This is not the kind of pressure that Twisted Mind really needs in this game 2. This is a clean OG Esports.
Tier 2 taken by Dowd, solo splitting on the bottom side of the map. A full level lead on Clean's Prince of Landling. And despite all of the picks that Twisted Minds were able to find early on, the pressure, it is still just equalized and just one up by Dowd, going to show that he is the one and only, the best jungler in the league.
I mean, the nice freezing there from 90 was very good. Obviously, it means that the minion wave couldn't crash mid into the mid part of the lane, into the clash lane, right? But at the same time, this is kind of like, it's like trying to like cover a bleeding wound. It's not quite doing what it needs to do. That bandage needs to turn into an operation. And speaking of operation, I'll make a caught out here.
Secret skill strike from the shadows. Clean finds on and waits for the flash to be burned before he commits the ultimate. Well played by the Prince of Landling, but now the rest of Twisted Minds under fire as the rest of OG Esports were trying to battle for mid prio, see if they got a chance to collapse onto Clean, but he's just going to slip back into the darkness.
I just love that. The fear in Clean's heart. He even had access into the enemy jungle whilst they were fighting into the mid lane. It was just like, bro, no, I'm not taking your Azure Golem because I know for a fact that's where all 4 of OG Esports are going to die. But right now, they are punishing City Boy.
Yeah, Dowd once again finding another crucial pick with the Luna. Just making sure that OG Esports are maintaining tempo and pressure. The gold lead still on their side, despite it being small, just under 3,000. Twisted Minds feels like, with all of their due diligence, all of the solid plans that they have made, it is still not enough against OG Esports.
Yeah, unfortunately for the side of for Twisted Minds, sorry. I mean, it's getting a little bit tricky here. Let's look at the gold difference. Ooh, 8.8k gold to Luna. So Dowd actually trekking this jungle 1v1, right? Like, he is definitely ahead of where he needs to be. And it's definitely showing on to Gorge here.
Another pick into the topside jungle. KK maybe getting a little too far forward. The collapse and the reinforcements just overwhelming the solo laners of OG Esports. Both Wen and KK biting the dust there, and Twisted Minds, maybe, can they get any more off of the pick? They have 5 members strong on the Gorge here. Neutral objective spawning in the next 10 seconds. Dowd now finding a window, forcing Yuhuan to go back here as TT Boy is able to continue buying space.
I mean, City Boy was forced to use the ultimate, right? I mean, we saw the cannon blast from Muchen. If that connect, then Dowd would have been literally a green card straight on top of them. But 90 here.
Yeah, Clean already using the Secret Seal Strike. Now he's has to wait for another moment here, and that just opens up Dowd to just clean house on any stragglers from the side. A Twisted Minds, Clean goes back in. Not enough damage to finish off Dowd on the Luna. He is just so damn strong. And I cannot express how difficult it is to be in a position of Prince of Landling where you feel like you're doing enough, but you're still massively behind in terms of gold against the enemy jungler, and you feel like all of your efforts are just for naught.
Again, I think at this point in the game, it's going to be hard for Clean to come back here. Shanks goes down like a dream because Dao is just so far ahead in terms of not only XP, but the gold, and that is really starting to show here on the Gorge. I mean, globally between the two teams, 2K is not the biggest divide, especially going into the 10-minute mark, right? We've seen 6, 7, K gold literally at this point of the game with some of these teams, but the fact that most of that difference is going off the Dao is making the difference onto the Gorge for OG Esports.
And now OG Esports are ready to take the grasp that they have wrestled away from Twisted Minds and really strangle the remaining life out of Twisted Minds, putting the pressure down on multiple lanes. Tier 2 tower falling in the clash lane. Their eyes on the tier 2 in the mid lane as CT Boy has got to be careful. Even the safety of these walls are not as safe as they might want to believe. Another tier 2 falling in the mid lane.
T2 just falling to the mid lane there. I mean, this is just a bigger open and a bigger fissure for the side of Twisted Minds. They need to try and counteract this whilst they're the higher ground turrets and whilst they still have them intact. But the problem is they can't get a clear way in to OG Esports, especially with the denial of Dao. We got Keke that's always like kind of like hiding in the back line, waiting for them to actually approach here. And the fact that they have way more neutral objectives under their belt, right, is just going to put a lot more pressure onto the Gorge. We do see that the Shadow Overlord has gone through to the side of OG Esports, means that a lot of pressure is now going to come through to one of those unsuspected lanes of Twisted Minds. So we could be seeing a little bit of a game finishing push here. Dao opening up that Azure Golem for himself, but actually gets stolen by Ilang with a couple blades.
Nice pickup here, maybe a consolation prize for the side of Twisted Minds, but it's gonna have to be more than just a blue buff steal if they want to come back in this game. CT Boy trying to bait out some cooldowns here, using Juan safely as much as they can. OG pushed up onto the top side. Mid lane, under pressure from the Shadow Vanguard, they are able to do it away. Oh, good pick onto Wen. That's a 5-on-4 now for the side of Twisted Minds. Maybe they can continue the pressure, but it's so hard to get out of their base. These cannon blasts keeping them at bay.
Cannon Blast, exactly. This is why I was well, I wasn't excited as you for the Prince of Langling pick, but I was bubbling knowing that Muchen got the Motsu, right? The Motsu is going to be there to just make sure they don't close the distance between OG Esports and Twisted Minds. Cannon Blast being very oppressive. Yes, there is ways of dodging it onto the side of Twisted Minds, like the Hue one, but ultimately it's been landing, it's been working, and it's definitely creating the divide between OG Esports and Twisted Minds.
Maybe a trap here sprung. Cannon Blast right onto the face of Clean, thankfully. He does not go down in an instant. Dao not willing to pull the trigger there, just being patient with the play, as he knows that the rest of OG Esports were still making their way towards the bottom side of the map with the collapse. High ground turret still up and available for all 3 lanes on the side of Twisted Minds.
Yeah, I feel like what OG Esports are going to do here is just basically nurse all 3 of these lanes that gets to the point where they're able to kind of push on all 4 fronts. And then that's where the team fight becomes a little bit more of a split divide between Twisted Minds for themselves, right? Because they need to find out where they're going to put their focus on, because right now they have no turrets in the game, right? They're still at those T1 territories. OG looking very clean in this one.
Maybe find in the mid lane, but Clean is forced to use the secret skill strike to flash away. And if you're using it to retreat and still die, then you know that you're in dire straits. Twisted Minds losing out on their jungler. The Shadow Tyrant quickly swept up by OG Esports in the aftermath, and the gold lead still continuing the climb.
Was definitely the pickup they needed, right? Especially in terms of the range that the Byron can actually get in there. So Keke had to use his flash, had to use his dash, and his knock up to claim clean. But it is definitely one of the bigger pickups they could have got in that team fight, because now they don't have the jungle. The silence isn't going to come through. In terms of intel, it's going to be a lot harder for sneaking around the Gorge.
It may not necessarily be the final nail in the coffin here, Blam, but it definitely seems like a big momentum breaker. The one person that had yet to drop a death in this game on the side of Twisted Minds, your jungler who goes for the volatile pick in the Prince of Landling, who was at least being able to put pressure, be that wild card, now being shut down like this. OG Esports seemingly have now taken full control of momentum in this game.
Full control of momentum, absolutely. I mean, not just that as well, right? I mean, they got the gold lead. They just need to make sure that they push in these waves. They need to put a lot more pressure onto the side of Twisted Minds, because if they don't allow this pressure to continue, there could be times, there could be room for error. But right now, Dowdo getting caught out there, quite a few stuns, and obviously Trano using the leader stance as well.
Was so close. You could sense the desperation. You could sense how hungry they were to take out Dowdo, the jungler of OG Esports, but now they're on the retreat. As you already see, Keke trying to get into the faces of them. As he overextended, pops the shield from the ultimate, just not enough to survive. And you know what? Twisted Minds are going to take that one graciously, but it does open up this Overlord being ripped by OG Esports. Twisted Minds trying to see if they can collapse fast enough. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, Keke's pressure was enough to sort of keep them away from the Overlord, right? Keep it non-contested. Twisted Minds not be able to get within the reach to contain that one, but they are approaching the T1 into the mid lane here. This could be an opening of what they need, but it is going to be the Overlord being put down here, completely mitigating any kind of work that they had trying to get there. Still able to claim the T1 into the mid lane because it is very weak at this point in the game, but this is a point where Twisted Minds need to kind of farm up, trying to get a little bit more resources so they can try and maintain the damage coming through for Hylang, for Shanks as well. But ultimately, these team fights are still going in the favor of OG Esports. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Bushin maybe jumped on here, tries to look for the flash play here onto 90. They missed the ultimate. Maybe they can turn it around here. A lot of damage on the CT boy. Here comes Keke. Oh, but it just goes a little too far forward once again. Okay, it's a trade. 1-for-1. The mid laner for the support. OG Esports still going to continue the siege. Shadow Vanguards have eliminated the high ground turret on the top side of the map. Dowdo putting the pressure, and now OG Esports are going to test the waters here, but they will not bait it fully from the side of Twisted Minds.
I mean, it wasn't just a trade as well, right? The fact that they're able to take down City Boy, again, gets rid of a lot of that healing. It gets rid of a lot of the CC from the Q1 as well. So, yes, they trade when, but they still have damage from the Ranger. They have damage from the Lunar as well. And also the Cannon Blast from Muchen. They definitely don't tickle. They still put a lot of oppressiveness onto the side of Twisted Minds. And you can see here the 5k gold difference has definitely not dwindled at all. Still farming up, maintaining the gold is OG Esports.
And they have full control of this bot side. They're trying to get to be the ones first in the river to control the Shadow Tyrant for positioning and posture, but Twisted Minds already beelining through their own red quadrant, seemingly still too hesitant to step up safely, because they're still overall down 5,000 gold. Muchen fishing with these cannon blasts, keeping vision, keeping them locked in place. As the rest of Twisted Minds force a retreat now, gotta be careful. Muchen another cannon blast right onto CT Boy. He's the only one that can step up and buy space for the rest of his squad.
Yeah, for now. For now, anyway, right? They just need to keep pushing this. They've got minions on all three lanes, right? This is definitely the prime time for OG to strike. Yes, Hylang is putting in those couple blades and putting them to work, trying to clear out the minion waves, but also doing a lot of damage onto the enemy team. Oh, Keke.
Oh, maybe a pick onto Wen. Forced away, but doesn't go down, and they have to deal with the minion pressure on both the top side and the mid lane, and the high ground turret falls in the bottom side of the map. Twisted Mind down on their knees and backs against the wall.
Again, still playing a very good defense, though. Like, they are getting them to the high ground turrets. It's just that OG Esports is chipping them away very slowly. But now we are starting to see that it's getting very much close to that 20-minute game, right? The Tempest Dragon is going to be up any moment now, and that, to me, is going to be the closer for the side of OG. They've got to be careful. Dow does not want to get picked off at this point in the game.
This just might be the longest game we've had in the Kings Major West League so far. We'll get a confirmation for that after the broadcast, or after at least the game, but if it's not the case, it definitely feels like it. I think this is the first time we're going to see a Tempest Dragon spawning on stream, if I'm not mistaken, Blam.
No, there's been a few. There's been a few already within the West League. Don't worry. Yep, there's been a few. Don't worry.
All right. I'm capping. That's my bad. Anyway, Tempest Dragon spawning in the next 5 seconds here. OG Esports continuing to leverage the pressure here, waiting on these empowered minions to just pour on into the base of Twisted Minds and let that pressure do the dirty work for them as the rest of OG Esports make a beeline to the Tempest Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw the Tempest Dragon actually arise was at Endpoint against Halo Gaming, so it's been a while. It's been a few days, so respectively, you're thinking that there's none, but there was a few days ago, so don't worry about that one. But we are getting into that latter part of the game. They have to be careful. Highland having to do a lot of housekeeping. Keeping them away means that they're going to miss out on a lot of burst damage.
You can see how Twisted Minds are trying to step up. Clean using his passive to sneak in through, get eyes on it. Still 20,000 HP. OG try to spring the trap forward. They're burning it down. Who's it going to go to? On secures the Tempest Dragon. And now everything has gone to disaster for the side of Twisted Minds. They're trying to hold the front line, but it's just not going to happen. Down out. Springs forward onto Shanks. Looking for Clean next, and he has made a beeline to get the heck out of there. And it's all on the High Long. It's all on the Clean to make the last impossible defense happen. But I don't know if it's going to happen. Clean trying to look and fish for an assassination to the back line, but OG can just push it on in. Dowd leading the charge, and OG remain undefeated in the ranking week, not dropping a single game. They are your undisputed best team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, they are still undefeated, right? But the fact is that they didn't have as clean as a game as they had previously means that the pressure was definitely there going against Twisted Minds. But it seems like they were just really waiting for that Tempest Dragon to come through, right? Because as soon as we saw the Tempest Dragon get picked up, Keke had the Sage's Sanctuary, so he was able to dive in. Twisted Minds honestly thought that they were onto something there, but the Sage Sanctuary came back up. It was a second wind for OG Esports, and at that point, they were able to wipe out 3 of the side of Twisted Minds, and then that left literally Clean, and I believe it was Highlang alive just to try and clean out those minion waves. And we saw Clean trying to navigate towards the backside of the map to try and backside of the team, sorry, to try and pick up anybody. But you're against 5 or of OG Esports at that point. It's going to be very hard for a Prince of the Landling to outshine those 4 members.
Unfortunately, as awesome as that hero is, and it's my favorite for a reason, I also know that it is just such a difficult task to try and remain as strong the later the game goes on, and when you have to deal with so many powerful CC abilities, you have to really wait for that window to present itself, and at that point, it feels damn near impossible, and I can't fault Clean for that, as they were able to pick up so many, windows and early kills, at least in the first few minutes of the game. But for OG Esports, it's the same story. A team might be able to find some early windows here, Blam, but then it just seems like OG Esports, especially off the back of Dowd, Deathless, once again, this time on the Luna, is just able to find windows to one-up his opponents.
I mean, they're trying to catch out Dowd on a Luna, right? It's very difficult. He is already very quick. And in terms of sort of catch, the potential to actually catch the Luna really only relies on 90. You can obviously try and get the silence from Clean on the Prince of Landling. And other than that, you've got obviously the big AoE CC coming from Huan on City Boy. But other than that, there's the way that he navigated these games, the way that he was getting the triple kills, especially towards that early to mid game, meant that the confidence from the side of Twisted Minds to actually pull that off just was not there. And this is correct thinking from the side of Twisted Minds, because this is no jungler. This is no normal jungler. This is Dowd, and he's able to get in, get out, get the kills, and just go home in time for tea. But right now, we can see here, the gold lead never even dipped into the favor of Twisted Minds. They struggled from the word go to try and get on top of the gold lead there, obviously resulting in around about 5.4k lead overall for the side of OG Esports. It just came down because obviously Keke, I do want to give a shout out to Keke, the way that he was managing the waves, especially in the early game. He was getting the priority in the lane, giving the intel over to the side of OG Esports, Dowd, and it was just kind of like a critical point in that match. MVP, obviously none other than Dowd, 2 back-to-back MVPs once more, not a single death in this game. 23% of the damage dealt, 20% taken, but the overall 28% of the gold coming through is exactly where the fissure between these 2 teams really started to show.
Yeah, when everything seems to be under fire on the side of OG Esports, at this point, I think we can comfortably rely on Doubtout to still find the advantages necessary for OG to still remain competitive, to remain even, neutralizing the game, and still one-upping his opponents. It all started with this bot lane play. The patience rewarded on this trap, picking up a triple kill for themselves, and it just completely neutralized anything that Clean was trying to do early game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the whole point of the land link, right? You need to have a little bit more pressure on your team for this to work. You need to be in control. And at that point, where Dowda was already ahead in terms of EXP and gold in the early game, that control already became apparent to Clean that it was slipping away. And these pickups that he just wasn't getting, we did see quite a few times Muchin try to lock him down with a think inside the box just right there. He kind of prematurely activated it and it didn't quite connect, which would have been a great shutdown onto Clean. But high length on this Ganamo was pretty much, I would say, one of the main components to why this wasn't such a quick game for OG Esports. Just having such great range, artillery, and burst damage just really meant that it was hard for them to actually climb in on top of him without getting any damage.
Yeah, super tough task for them to be able to surpass here. And I'm just so grateful that we got a chance to see the battle of our two undefeated teams go head to head and see, you know, how it all unfolded. OG Esports still, as you said, it wasn't an easy, you know, walk for them, but it's still super impressive to see how they were able to manage to navigate their way through probably the highest amount of pressure that they have been faced with so far in the tournament from any other team in the league. And they were able to do so beautifully. And just being able to problem solve on the fly, be able to rely on Dowdow's reliability to find advantages and just push through that. But of course, that concludes our second series. We still have 2 more series left to go on broadcast, and they are just as important in determining who is going to secure that 3rd seed. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's our 3rd series of the day.
In Hero's Gorge, the base is the spring of life. In the real world, every forest and plant is the Earth's spring of life. The base nourishes the gorge, just as Earth's ecosystems sustain all life. If the base is exhausted, heroes will lose their home. If ecosystems are destroyed, all life loses their habitat. Honor of Kings is working with players worldwide to support real-world environmental causes and protect our planet's future. By participating in Protect Nature, Protect All Life, all efforts in the event will contribute to real-world causes, protect the environment, and let us defend the honor of our planet together.
Excuse me.
Hugging stings. Victory!
Another round. Sure, but how about a smoother phone next time?
Realme 14, performance beyond limits.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready for game and series number 3 between Alo and Virtus Pro. Now, there is some high stakes going into this series. I think, unfortunately for Virtus Pro, they are no longer able to clinch that 3rd seed off of the back of their earlier series loss today against 9C Global. However, there is a possibility that Alo could get that 3rd seed. We're not quite sure of if head-to-head score matters, but the best that Alo can do is clean this series in a 2-0 to give themselves the best chance possible.
Exactly. I mean, this is the whole point of day 4, right? Is the seeing who's going to get that 3rd seed into the Group S, because yes, we had one of the biggest setups of the day, which was obviously Twisted Minds against OG Esports, a little bit of a potential preview into the finals of this region West League, but at the same time, it is just as more important for these teams to try and get into a Group S so they don't have to fight all the way up between 4 teams to get to the very top and make it through to the knockout week.
Yeah. Group S allows you to basically survive not having to play another week of games just for a chance to make it into the knockouts and the playoffs. But it all comes down to our last series of the day, starting with this one between Alo and Virtus Pro. Now, unfortunately for Virtus Pro, as we already talked about, because they're already confirmed to be going into Survival Week, I think the best thing that they can take away from this last series that they're playing today is just try and experiment with as much as you can. Try and continue getting those fundamentals and the coordination with your team down so that you're putting yourself in the best position once you get into the next week of games.
Yeah, I mean, there's still pride on the line, right? You still want to say that you won as many games as you possibly could within the ranking week. You don't want to kind of be like, let's play coy, let's play kind of like dead, and then wait till it's going to be the survival week, and then that's when we start to show, because already some of these teams we're starting to see a little bit of a struggle within the best of 3 anyway when it comes to drafting. So when a best of 5 comes around, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. Going to put them more to a bit of a test within those best of 5 formats. Luckily for some of these teams, they don't have to do a best of 7, so their best of the 5 is going to be their next hurdle. But if any of them try and get anywhere close to obviously KWC, which is going to be later on in the year, obviously we'll start to see some best of 7s come through there, and then that's where the real challenge becomes for some of these teams.
Yeah, you get into the endurance test for these teams to see how long you can last, how long you can maintain that mental composure, and how many, heroes you can exhaust in your pool. What the creativity starts to come flourishing for some of these teams. We already have seen a lot of that creativity expressed early on, and we're just in best of threes, Blam. The fact that teams are already able to flex that kind of creative muscle, I'm super excited to when we get to the point where it is those longer series.
Yeah, I mean, when you're already up by 1 point, you're going to start to flex the muscle, right? Like, it's where you try to do it at game 1. But we are going to go and introduce our first team of this game, and it is going to be Virtus Pro.
On the blue side for this series, it is Virtus Pro. Shisu in the Clash lane, Alim in the jungle, Red in the mid lane, and then Prince and Grizzly Q in that farm lane duo. This is the Bears, and we already saw this team play earlier today. Unfortunately, came up short against 9C Globen. They definitely tried to do their best there, and I know that we got a chance to see them flip a little bit of the compositional draft style. In the first game, they went for a little bit more frontline focus for Alim in the jungle with the monkey. Not a great look. He tries to go for something a little bit more comfortable on the Lamb, and despite his best efforts, it still wasn't enough to answer against Sig on the side of 9Z Globen.
Yeah, I mean, L's not for losing, L is for winning. So right now, Virtus Pro are quite warmed up, but let's see their competitors, which is Alo Gaming. So here is Alo Gaming. This is going to be the final opponent for VP in the ranking week, and they are comprised of Doxa, Vermon, Lomax, Solista, and Roba Almar in the support role. And again, this team's been it's teetering on the edge of that third place within the Group S. So they are definitely going to be coming out guns blazing, but they know that VP is all warmed up. They've seen VP already in their first game of the day. So again, yes, VP are warmed up, but Alo Gaming are warmed up within their minds. They know what could potentially come through its drafts. They know how they may play it as well. But all I'm saying for VP is they need to play it like game 2, not like game 1.
Yeah, definitely much more in their wheelhouse of comfortability, and the picks that they were able to assemble for themselves in that composition. It fit the archetypes and the play styles that Virtus Pro really making a name for themselves for. Our head-to-head graphic is going to feature our mid-lane matchup between Red and Lomax.
Quite a bit of a disparity, right? Like in terms of kills, at the top side of obviously the 3 out of 4 points, quite a bit of a disparity for the side of VP, right? Like it's looking a little bit less compared to Lomax into the mid side, to the majority within that mid lane, but it's sort of towards the team play participation when we start to see that it seems like in that graph that Red is more of a team player than Lomax.
Cool thing about this squad from Alo Esports, they are the representatives of Peru, being able to qualify through the Open Latin American South qualifier. And this was a team that it was catching a lot of people by surprise off of the backs of, first couple of game performances. I think when we were looking at their contenders for the third seed outside of, the top 2 projected in OG Esports and Twisted Minds, a lot of people were suspecting, okay, maybe it's going to be Movistar Koi or Virtus Pro or 9Z Globen. No one was suspecting Alo to be able to come out on top against some of the rest of the teams here, but they have been proving themselves to be a force to be reckoned with in the middle of the pack, and now have a chance to snag that third seed.
Absolutely. I mean, Lomax into the mid lane is probably one of the big players with this one, as well as Solista into the farm lane as well for me personally. And then I'd probably say Vermont as well. Definitely had moments of shining come through with some of his picks throughout the West League as well. But getting into this draft, they're banning out the Jing. They don't want a limb to get onto those big assassins pick. And VP are just going back to a bit of basics and be like, right, okay, let's ban out the Mai Shiranui and we'll work it out from there. But the Dolia being banned out here from Alo Gaming means that we're probably not going to be seeing those pairings up for the likes of the Dolia and the Elaine, or even Dolia and the Shangguan. So don't want to give over those double ultimates to the side of VP.
Both of the bans have been taken by Alo and Virtus Pro.
Our paths
Diadea is actually being looked at and confirmed as the priority pick for Alo Esports.
Diadea, great prio pick onto the blue side, right? I mean, it sets up a great team fight. It is a great counter engage as well. But speaking of great picks, we've got the Ali and the Mayin come through here. Obviously, Diadea can kind of block the Mayin going into the team fights. We can probably see a little bit of a chase down, especially with the bit of farewell onto the Ali as well. Could potentially come through for the side of Halo Gaming, but they're going to be pairing that up with the Lung here. So again, the Flaming Palms can come through, but like Ali's kit, it can negate quite a few of these projectiles.
Halo now thinking about what they want to round out their first three-man core with. Boom and Yixing looked at. That is going to be the combo there. The late game insurance policy we've always talked about when this farm laner is locked in, and the utility from Yixing always working in spades. And Virtus Pro, they might be off to a good start already in the Blam coaching philosophy in the playbook. Oh, you know what? I got baited by the hover, Blam. I told myself not to do that a couple times. You know, they were thinking about the Lamb, but it's going to be the Musashi instead.
Yeah, the Musashi's a great pick as well, right? I mean, it's a little bit more tankier than the Lam as well. Obviously, you get the sustain come through. Duel to the death is a little bit more of the honing in skill rather than kind of like the death from below where you got to try and hope that it just connects. But right now, it could have paired very well with the Mayin, right? Like if we got the whatevers come through and a little bit of CC from the Mayin onto one of the unsuspecting victims of Alo Gaming, it could have been quite fruitful for them. But at the same time, Alo Gaming do have the Lung, they have the infinite vastness as well. So any of these kind of dive potential picks that come through, like the Lam, do suffer and are at the mercy of the infinite vastness. But looking at this next part of the banning phase, obviously Monkey, Dune getting banned out here, they really are trying to put a halt onto Alo Gaming in terms of the tanky junglers, but Orgrin is still available for the side of Alo Gaming.
Question is, does Alo want to take it in the face of something like a Musashi? We've talked about before.
Very, very true.
That by early picking the Musashi, you are daring Alo, which is why they don't have to worry about banning the Orgrin. And if they thought that Musashi CC wasn't enough, Virtus Pro now locking in the Liang for Grizzly Q.
Looking in the Liang there, I mean, could we potentially be getting that Princess Frost combo come through into the mid lane as well that we've been seeing quite frequently, as especially right now that we are still waiting for VP to drop their mid lane, and right now they definitely need a little bit more of an area of control. So either the Princess Frost, the Lady Jen would be pretty good here. The fact that Nu has been taken off the table as well as the Ganon Mo feels like they kind of have to sit into that control mage role, which it's not kind of like settling for the side of VP. It's definitely going to benefit their draft.
Wait, who's the jungler for Alo? Is it Yuhuan?
Yuhuan, yeah, it'd be Yuhuan.
Wow. Okay. I've only seen this hero picked in the support role, so this is definitely a new one for me. But you know what? This is going to be the answer that Alo Esports are looking for. Virtus Pro rounding out their composition with the Princess Frost. We see how valuable she can be, as well as being able to at least give over that lane of economy once she acquires the items necessary, which will allow for someone like Prince to get even more farm for themselves racked up on the Arlie. But now looking at these two compositions here, Blam, where do you see the strengths? Where do you see the win conditions lying here?
I mean, the strength for Alo Gaming, especially with Yuan into the jungle, this was something they kind of learned from the KPL Dream Team of EWC, right? They were definitely flaunting this pick throughout the entire of that tournament, and then ever since then, especially when we didn't have global ban pick, this was one of the major picks into the jungle because they build it tanky, they don't build it AP. So it's, again, a solid front line. You have the Unending Sorrow that's able to dodge a lot of and basically bait a lot of the abilities onto the enemy team, but then you also have the sustain part come through as well. And then when you're pairing that with the Dolia, you're going to get double the sustain come through, a lot of CC, and a great counter-engage potential for the side of Alo Gaming. So I do like it. It is great against the Musashi. It's kind of going to be able to try and bait out a lot of the skills onto the side of VP as well. So honestly, I do like Alo's Gaming's first game draft. But over to the side of VP, they have been picking that very fruitful Princess Frost and Liang combo, right? A lot of CC coming through from both of these teams.
Yeah, it seems like any target that Grizzly Cube wants to flash ultis on, and as long as Red is near there with the Princess Frost, that person on Alo Esports is just dead to rights. It is very hard to imagine a world like, unless they're super tanky, any squishy is going to be biting the dust there. But we are on to the Gorge for our first game of our third series of the day, y'all. And just to remind you, this thrilling season of the Major West League is made possible with the support of EWC, helping bring top-tier competition to fans worldwide.
Absolutely, it's going to be great. Anyway, getting KWC a little bit later on in the year as well. And then we also have the Realme 14 series. Our players are all geared up with the Realme 14 5G, built for performance, made for gaming, smooth, cool, reliable, just the way esports demands. Ready to level up? Get yours now and feel the difference.
1 minute so far into the game. Not much has happened in terms of early skirmishes. However, there's definitely been some posturing, a little bit of poking, prodding from between both teams, testing the water, see where they can find these small advantages so far. But it definitely does seem like it is a standard game between these two.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to try and steal a few of these like sideline camps from the side of VP as well. I believe it did go over to Prince, as he is now level 3, is ahead of the curb compared to Solista, that's just chinged as well with the level 3. But right now, in the early game, we're just really looking at trading blows, looking at trying to get as much damage as possible. Obviously, Diadea and the Lung going against an Arlie makes it a little bit more trickier of a 1v1 down to the bot side of the map. But we could see some heavy rotations from the Princess Frost and the Liang for now.
Alim on the Musashi poking his head into the red quadrant to see if there was any camps available. Unfortunately for him, all of them had been taken away already by Vermon. Now Halo trying to focus down the sprite on the top side to see if they can get priority on the first teleport of the game. Virtus Pro having Red and Shisu waiting in the wings. Maybe a trap here. Gold is my board, already used in response by Lomax, and it keeps Virtus Pro at bay and allows him to survive.
Yeah, kind of baited, obviously, Shisu there into trying to take down Lomax, but obviously with the Yixing, he does have the passive that makes him a little bit of invincibility when it comes to him being low health. It is part of his passive. It does go on cooldown, so he has to be careful with this next invade into the mid lane, right? Like, now that VP has this intel, do they strike on it? Will they go in full Lomax?
Only time will tell. Prince has been idly and very comfortably farming up a storm on the bottom side against Lista's Long. It's pretty hard to dive something like an Arlie with the amount of mobility and outplayability that you have just dancing between the parasols. We've seen a key example of that, I want to say a couple days ago. I do not remember the teams, but there was definitely one Arlie outplay that left me completely stun locked, and Virtus Pro gonna see if they can continue to rely on that safety. But with 3 members pressuring the turret, it is a little difficult, and Lomax even extending the world as my board just to force Prince off the turret.
Again, just to force him off the turret, but the turret did take a lot of trading blows there. But I do think I know which outplay you do mean there, Rafa. It was none other than OG Esports is on, taking that 3v1 into the bot side of the turret. But right now, suppression coming through.
And there is the combo. Liang into the Princess Frost. Lomax has nowhere to go. First blood picked up for Virtus Pro.
Yeah, again, when you get suppressed, when you have the Winters here on top of you, it becomes so much more difficult to move out of that one, right? Like, not even any kind of cleanse onto the side of Alo Gaming can get you out of that one.
But they are all able to push the pressure here on the tier 1. Oh, Alim going in, trying to set up the CC for the rest of his team to follow up on the damage, but they are getting pressed back by all the AoE from the rest of Alo Esports, and they successfully take the tier 1 without really losing much on the backside.
The great thing about the Diadea, right? Like, honestly, the Destiny counter, not only dishing out the damage but giving out the healing to your allies, right? So it means that they have a little bit of a second wind going into that one. It makes your enemy team kind of think, you know what, I am going to back away from this team fight just to live another day, because once you've taken that T1, and if you've got a few kills translated into that takedown of the T1 as well, could have been a lot more troublesome for the side of Virtus Pro.
A flash was expended by Robo Alma on the support there, but ensuring that the rest of his team is able to make that escape might not be a window that Virtus Pro can comfortably punish in time. Both of the neutral objectives have already been spawned 5 minutes into our first game in the third series so far. And Alien Esports have the comfortability of being able to play further up into that bot side since they took that tier 1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ali's not going to, Prince is not going to be having a easier game nowadays, because he has a little bit less of a safe space to actually recall back to. Like, that T1's gone. It's 5 minutes in. You're going to be relying on sort of like flickering between that T2 into the farm lane, going back to the mid to try and farm up, maybe collect a few camps here and there. But this is where Alo Gaming are kind of putting the pressure on. They're laying it down thick into the farm lane so that Prince doesn't have that room to grow.
Showed 4 on the bot side of the map. Looks like Doxa forced a flash away from dangers since the rest of Virtus Pro tried to equalize the pressure on the top side, but it's a tier 1 for a tier 2 trade. That definitely favors Alo, as now they're putting the pressure on the high ground tower. Prince trying to keep them busy and occupied. Infinite Vastness already used reposition. Is he going in forward? My goodness, Solista! Excelente from the farm laner of Alo Esports.
Yeah, he was waiting for the slow to come through. He was waiting for the Destiny counter as well, just to do that last little bit of damage that was going to be the sweet spot for Solista, just to be like, right, I'm going to take a U-turn, I'm going to fall back into my team, but they're still going to be in range of my Infinite Fastness to take the damage, and that's exactly what happened there. Solista picking up the kill. He is about 800 gold ahead of Prince, so he has to be careful. Suppression conversion.
Big fight in the mid lane. Maybe Virtus Pro can find a quick pick here, but they've already lost Grizzly Q. Alim is able to trade one back on the Lomax in the backside, but he's all by himself. He has to buy time for the rest of the team to collapse. Here comes Shisu on the Mayin, kicking them in the face. Massive knockup onto the backside of Alo Esports, but they turn on the heat. They turn on the firepower, trying to see if they can fight back against the rest of Virtus Pro. And look at Solista. He's just pumping out damage. This guy does not stop.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very troublesome for Alo Gaming. Obviously, they lost Lomax, they lost Robert Almar as well into the early game, but Alim had to run away. He was literally on the death's precipice. He had to get back and get some help, and then it was coming through. It was Solista that got the turnaround, made that an equal trade, and it was also thanks to, obviously, Doxa having that HP regen onto the Byron as well, having that kind of sustainability, having that tankiness from this pick. It's pretty huge, but we also saw the crucial function of the Hue 1 into this team fight, right? There was a crucial 3-man crowd control, so again, that big knockup from her ultimate is deadly.
Ensuring his survivability. Crucial for the side of Alo Esports. As they now continue to leverage pressure into the mid lane. They have full access to this bottom side quadrant. Uh-oh, Shisu gets a little too close. Infinite Vastness allows Solista to reposition safely away. Is able to lay down some damage, but Alim finds a good trade into Vermont's back. Alo Esports now without their jungler. Gotta be careful. Good setup here by the rest of Virtus Pro, trying to catch out another member, but it's just not enough. Solista is pumping damage on this long.
Yeah, I mean, the lung is definitely the... Oh my god, that double kill.
That was insane. I mean, this is just what happens when a late game farm laner is able to get accelerated this early on. Virtus Pro, they're running out of options to deal with this long.
Now, this is the punishment of what exactly Alo Gaming had in mind, right? They knew they were going to get the early game lead against the Arlie. Prince lost his T1 much early on. We saw that VP trying to get a bit of a saving grace, took the T1 up into the clash lane. At that point in the game, Alo Gaming was like, right, bet, I'm going for your T2 into the farm lane. So now, Ali has to kind of stick around and share the resources that were meant for her, rightfully meant for her. She's a late game hero that needs those resources. Lomax almost got caught out, but Prince just wasn't be able to translate that into a kill. So overall, VP are struggling for now.
It's a 2,000 gold lead for Alo Esports. So in terms of overall lead, it doesn't feel that damaging for the side of Virtus Pro, but you are staring down an over-accelerated, super-fed long. And if you do not have the CC combos, if you cannot find the window to lock him down, then definitely feels impossible. So Lisa has no flash. Can they find the window? But they have to get through the front line first. They deal with Lomax right away, but Solista trades back into a limb. They're able to find Red into the back as well, and now this tier 1 is susceptible to being struck down by Halo Esports. They are continuing to run away with the game.
Yeah, this is the problem, right? When you have Yu1 and the Diadea healing you up, so both Robo Alama as well as Vermont actually just sticking with the team fight. You can imagine that the team fight potential, team fight participation, sorry, for these two players is actually going to be quite a significant rating for Halo Gaming, because as they stick around, the duel to the death is not going to be what is going to be normally a fruitful ultimate, right? Picking up the back line, getting a lot of damage onto one of the squishy heroes onto your enemy team comp. But it's also Solista with the Flaming Palms right now. He's level 13, Prince is level 12. The gold difference is also making the difference as well.
And I like the use of the world as my board from Lomax. He doesn't even need to trap people. He just blocked off the entrance so that no one from the side of Virtus Pro could even walk in and try and gain space for that Tyrant take. It is completely secured by the side of Halo Esports, and now they shift their control over to the top side.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. What? Solista, 8.3k gold. Prince, 6.8 gold. That is just within one lane. Itemization, Starbreaker coming through. Eternity Blade, Master Sword as well. There is a lot of damage coming through for the side of Halo Gaming right now. 6, 0, and 1. And he's not stopping there. He's claiming turrets with the Flaming Palms. He's pretty much unstoppable. He's activated at this point.
And another quick pick on to Grizzly Q, who is waiting for a little bit of a trap of his own, but he can only CC one target. He can't CC multiple. Maybe the collapse from a limb will change the story here. Going in, finds the knockup onto Solista, forcing the infinite vastness, but the fact that he could reposition safely away from harm gives Halo Esports the firepower and the safety needed to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, once again, obviously Musashi can't do the damage and can't maintain the damage with the healing that's coming from the Q1 and the Diadea. But not only that, he has to be online and active to realize that the infinite vastness was not on cooldown. So he went in with the duel of the death, exhausted it, but the infinite vastness came through from the lung, and it was just like, whatever you tried there, buddy, wasn't enough. And this is what kind of is feeling like a little bit of momentum or a theme here for VP, is when they're down in the dumps, it seems.
Yeah. Comes down to threat overload. Maybe a pick onto left side here. Grizzly Q opening up on the Doxa, but he's just too tanky on the Byron. And that pick goes all for naught. Virtus Pro losing out on their support once again. And this is now 5-on-4 for Halo Esports. Not sure if they want to start ripping the Shadow Overlord, but they're going to try for it. And I don't think Virtus Pro can even walk up and contest.
I mean, they don't have anything really to do so. They don't have the suppression. They don't have the CC coming through from his abilities, as well as the AoE damage from those ultimate, the skills. But they did have a limb. A limb could have dived in there with extreme speed. It would have probably cost him his life and probably wouldn't be as much a greater return in terms of interest becoming a VP, as they are down by about 8k gold right now. So they have to play these defensive plays very well to maintain staying in this game one.
Any chances for a comeback now seem futile for the side of Virtus Pro, and Halo Esports continuing to impress as one of the teams that we didn't really have our eyes on when this league first started. Maybe a good suppression pick here right onto Vermont, and now it's looking onto the next target. But as long as Solista is alive, he can still continue to pump out the damage, and that's where Alim needs to retreat. They maintain the numbers advantage for now, 5-on-4 against Halo, so they cannot continue the siege, but the high ground turret already was destroyed on the bottom side of the map. And with these Shadow Vanguards pouring in, it's just more pressure that Virtus Pro have to deal with.
Yeah, two things to point out there. The only reason a limb stayed alive within that fight was the Illuminating Slash connected and completely mitigated the damage from the Flaming Palms. But also, the fact that Halo Gaming have so much slow come through now. I mean, you just saw that Lomax built the Frozen Breath. We saw the Ominous Premonition come through for Robot Alama. So again, a lot of movement speed decrease coming through. But now we can't go out here.
Yeah, this is a quick collapse. They saw that Doxa was pushing out on the top side of the map. The rest of Halo Esports hadn't really fully deployed yet on the bottom side, so it was just a great window for Virtus Pro to at least get a free pick, but they're going to have to retreat. They won't get a chance to contest for the Shadow Tyrant, since they still have to deal with the Shadow Vanguards pouring in through the bot side.
Again, it's just, I don't want to keep beckoning on this point, but the fact that I know there's quite a few players within my ranked games that don't know that Musashi's Illuminate Slash can actually block projectiles. Do it. Trust me.
Well, Prince just got deleted by Solista once again, and now you already see that Halo Esports are just corralling Virtus Pro members one by one. The pick on the Doxa didn't even matter because Halo Esports can still win a 4v5. Triple kill for Solista on the long, and Halo Esports will take the first game of the series.
Yeah, with those just a little bit of minions coming through, and those flaming bombs are going to connect and take down the crystal for Halo Gaming. That was a very good game between Halo Gaming, a very good game for Halo Gaming, not between them two. There was definitely not too much of a kind of like pull and throw between these two teams, unfortunately.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like there was not much ground for Halo Gaming to really give for the side of Virtus Pro right now. The big fact of the matter is once a farm laner that is scales insanely well into the late game gets accelerated like that, if you do not have an immediate CC answer, overload on the dive threat to lock him down and shut him down, this guy's just going to continue scaling beyond the breaking point of how your farm laner is trying to catch up, right? I mean, you know, credit to Prince trying to do whatever he could, but it just seems like that's where Halo Gaming's focus was, in making sure that they were able to continue leveraging that pressure, continuing pouring resources, and all of their faith was rewarded by Solista's performance at the end.
Exactly, this was one of their win conditions, right? Halo Gaming knew they had to focus the bot side of the map, the farm lane. They knew that if Prince was given the room to grow like a mushroom, he would have come out, he would have activated, he would have been doing a lot more damage, a lot more slipperier to catch for the side of Halo Gaming. But no, that early game pressure definitely bared fruits into the mid game, into the late game for Halo Gaming. So right now, we're seeing a fantastic performance on Solista with the Lung, but this is the global BP. He does not have that pick anymore. He's got to find a substitute for that amazing dragon that's going to be able to not try and dodge a lot of those ultimates like the duel to the death. But we are getting into the post analytics here, and you can kind of see already that Solista did not die once. He was on 9-0-2, fully itemized, going for the Shadow Ripper towards the end there, as well as the Siege Breaker. So again, a lot of damage coming through, especially when your enemy opponents are at 30% health or below. And then over to the side of VP, we start to see where the kind of movements start to show in terms of the gold, right? I mean, definitely into that farm lane, there was a lot of a difference going on down there. We saw a 10.1k to a 12.8k for Solista. It was just a huge lead, but like we've seen in the game, Prince just did not have that safe space to actually even try and bring back that gold lead, right? Only getting a few kills towards the end. But surprisingly, though, this is why the Yixing, I feel like, is always picked. Not only does it have great control, but the damage that comes through from this hero, if you're able to proc its passive properly, is huge. It out-damages the Lung.
Yeah, it definitely was surprising to see that Lomax was still out-damaging his farm laner in Solista, but it just goes to show that the rest of Halo Gaming was setting up Solista for success. All the utility, all the crowd control, buying space as the front line, just to make sure that Solista could be in range safe enough to then confirm the kills back to back to back. And now, as we head into our second game, I imagine for Virtus Pro, even though that, yes, you don't have to deal with another Lung performance from the side of Solista, I think the playstyle is going to be very similar. Halo Gaming have a lot of trust in leveraging a late game farm laner to be scaled up with all that overload on the bottom side of the map. Maybe Virtus Pro want to answer not just in composition, but also execution and how much protection they give to Prince early on.
Exactly. I mean, this is where it's going to start to come to fruition in BP of the next game, right? Is the fact that do they ban out the Arlie onto the side of Virtus Pro, or do they kind of ban out the Lung onto the side of Halo Gaming? But either way, they're going to open up some really big picks in that first banning phase, so they got to be careful.
It's going to be the name of the game, and our MVP of the series, I have an idea who is going to be, and yep, it is Solista with Lung, 9-0-2. If you had him, and you thought you had him locked down, he had a flash, and if you thought you had him locked down without a flash, he still had the infinite vastness, and there were still just so many ways that Halo Gaming were relying on their ultimates to continue creating that barrier that unpenetrable protection from the side of Virtus Pro, where they just could not get enough threats through to actually pressure this farm laner out.
Yeah, this was the beauty for the Hue1 and the Diadea combo, right? Like I was saying in the BP, there's a lot of denial, a lot of counter-engaging. We're going to be seeing that into this highlight reel as well. But as you can see, this first little fight with the suppression coming through, they're able to take down Lomax here, but the crucial crowd control was really the tide turner here for the side of Alo Gaming. And this is where Solista decided to activate. I mean, Alim had to run away literally on the edge of death right there. And then we saw Doxa just going in with the Byron, just be able to just deal a lot of damage, but then heal himself, and then that's when Solista comes in. The artillery, the barrage to just finish off the enemy team is exactly how Alo Gaming won these team fights.
Now, the range on Solista at this point in the game was just filthy, and the fact that Alo continuously created that space, created that barrier where Virtus Pro just could not get through, means that Solisto is having the game of his life. He gets to tap away on any member that steps up in his range.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the denial onto the loop as well, it just meant that Solista just had a very comfortable game. And it was all kind of from the onset, just the domination down into the farm lane as well. It meant that Prince just wasn't able to just do what he needed to do, right? So again, just the dividends paid off for that early game aggression, those great rotations, and putting the focus down into the farm lane really showed the difference there between Alo Gaming and Virtus Pro in that game one. But whilst they're gathering their thoughts, both of these teams and ourselves are going to go on a break and be right there, well, be right back with game two.
What's a life without its worth? Compromising with what hurts inside. When you let fear decide your fate, you don't choose which path to take in life. In life, I'm finally letting go of everything that still holds me. I'm against the odds, but I won't give up, 'cause it's my time to shine. Standing in the spotlight, and no one let me down. Destiny is calling high. I'm not afraid to fight for everything I love. Victory's on my side. The more we lose, the more we gain. The more that nothing stays the same in time. In time. Can't love ever, can't forget. What you see is what you get sometimes. Sometimes. Gonna show the world tonight. The light that shines inside us. We're against us, but we won't give up, 'cause it's our time to shine. Standing in the spotlight, can no one back us down. Destiny is calling high in light. We're not afraid to fight for everything we love. Victory's on our side. Takiki takiki takitao. Takiki takiki takitao. Takiki takiki takitao. Takiki takiki takitao. Everything still holds you. 'Cause it's our time to shine. Standing in the spotlight, can no one back us down. Destiny is calling high in light. We're not afraid to fight for everything we love. Victory's on our side. It's our time to shine high in light.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 2 between Alo Gaming and Virtus Pro. And if the first game you didn't get a chance to watch, well, it was an Alo Gaming victory, and not in the way that we expected. Blam, both of the teams had assembled, late game oriented compositions where they wanted to scale and team fight, but props to Alo Gaming. They put the pressure onto the bot side, allowed Sulista to get a massive gold accelerated lead over the side of Princess Arlie, and it just really showed in the strength of how those team fights were being played out by Alo Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, my concerns for the team of VP really started to show when we saw that Hue1 get locked in right. The fact that we knew that was going to be into the jungle just striked my PTSD from EWC, from KC 2024, when it was one of the most favored picks into the jungle. I was just like, this is a little bit too much like clean-cut draft for the side of Alo Gaming. I mean, you had the control from the Yixing, the damage from the Yixing, damage from Lung, the burst damage from the Flaming Palms, you had the CC healing from Diadea, as well as the Hue1. Building Hue1 into a tank is an absolute nemesis on that one. And then obviously you have Byron up the Clash lane as well, which has been very fruitful for the majority of the West League as well. So again, when I started to see this draft come through, I was just like, man, this is going to be a hard one to pull off from Virtus Pro. And like I was saying in the introduction, statistically, Alo Gaming takes this series because Alo Gaming bet NRX, but VP didn't. That's not me being biased, that's the stats speaking for themselves. But maybe VP can go against the stats, go against the numbers, and take this game 2 from Alo Gaming.
And I think it just really comes down to if Virtus Pro are willing to not just change up the compositional playstyle. They've already at least adopted, some of the more comfort picks that they have prioritized for themselves in earlier games. But it also comes down to execution and how proactive you are in the early game. You had yourself a Liang and Princess Frost combo, and yet it was Alo Gaming pushing the tempo, making the pace their own, and forcing Virtus Pro to dance to it.
Exactly. That's one of the win conditions as well for Honor of Kings is if you are going to be the dominator on the Gorge, you better make sure that you are going to maintain that role. You can't be the dominator and then be like, you know what, guys, I'm going to play charitable. I'm going to wait for you to get some resources come through, and then we'll see what happens from there, because that can be the tipping point for your team. Like, they can completely catch off guard. Team fight comes through. They take some turrets. They take the Ogryn onto the side of Alo Gaming coming through here. So will we see a Masashi come through for a limb, or will it not come through until the next banning phase?
Unfortunately, they already exhausted the use of the Musashi, which is why Alo Gaming is so confident in just first picking the Ogryn. This is just a great strategy already coming from the representatives of Peru, Virtus Pro. Now on the back foot, they're going to have to either dig deep and find more CC and other hero picks locked up in their composition, or they're going to have to, really throw everything against the wall and go for an OG esports style composition, locking in something like the Pei or another early aggressive jungler.
I mean, this is what I said in the post games of Game 1, right? I mean, Alo Gaming still have access to the Ali. Depending on how the BP goes in the first banning phase, means that the Ali could be available for them, and it is so. I mean, they prioritize the Ogryn over the Ali just to say, like, ha, look, we can pick this now, and you can't have the Masashi. 5 a.m. Brain Blam, didn't quite remember that one, but there we go. A lot of bursts coming through from Alo Gaming. Frontline tank, got the Ganon Mo, got the Ali. This is looking a very sweet team comp right now. Quite artillery based into the back lines of the team of Alo Gaming. But we are getting the Pei come through, like you said, Rafa. It is coming through this time around, but can Alim be aggressive enough to make it come fruitful?
He at least has the Byron locked in for Shisu, so that they have that guaranteed winning 2v2 jungle Clash Lane combo. The question now is for Alo Gaming, since they have not locked in a Clash Laner of their choice for Doxa, what kind of hero will be the answer to the Byron? We've seen many come out so far in the tournament. Mayin has been a common answer, but if you want something a little bit more safe, could be something different for the side of Alo Gaming as we go through the second round of bans. Supports being focused at from the side of Virtus Pro with the Zhang Fei as well as the Lian Po, whereas for Alo, it is the Lady Sun and trying to target potentially another farm laner away from Prince.
Yeah, potentially another farm laner away from Prince here. We could be potentially looking at, I mean, they could still have the Lung, right? I mean, if they don't ban out the Lung, they could go for it. Is it Alo Gaming just kind of flexing here, saying, look, take the lung. We have so much damage here on the side of our team comp. Let's see you have it. But the shot comes through for the first time of the day. Great control mage. Generally a good counter for the Ogryn. We normally see the shot come through when we see Ogryn getting locked into these team comps. So already we've seen promising performances for Red on this pick. So maybe, just maybe, with the control from the Diadea and the healing, the control from the shot, we could be seeing a decent matchup here for Virtus Pro.
And it's not like you're lacking in damage when it comes to at least the early stages of the game, thanks to Byron and Pei. But now, at least Virtus Pro have some contingency policies with the control and the CC set up from Diadea and Shi. Alo looking at the Mayim as their answer into the Byron in the Clash lane, and the Motsu locked in for the support. And as you called it, Blam, Virtus Pro, they are being goaded by the side of Alo to say, can you take the Lung? Can you perform just as well as Elisa did? And they're going to try.
Yeah, I mean, even though Virtus Pro has the Pei and the Byron combo, again, just as fruitful as, I mean, they played both of the most fruitful combos so far within the Major West League, right? They played Princess Frost and Liang in the last game. Now they're playing the Byron and the Pei. Byron and the Pei operates a little bit different. It's the access into the backline, it's the early game aggression, it's the stacking of the damage, but then also the healing sustain from the Byron means that you gotta kind of play as an army of two in a way, and then the rest of the team kind of work around you. Pairing that with a Lung is going to be good for them because they have the Flaming Palms. So again, a bit of range, a bit of kind of massive burst come from the side of VP. But respectively over the side of Alo Gaming, they have the Motsu. Motsu could completely deny the access into the backline with either Think Inside the Box or the Cannon Blast. So there is ways around this terrible twos that we have for the side of VP. And this could be very good for Alo Gaming, or we could see a great masterclass here from VP, because Lord knows they need it, right? Lord knows they need it. They need some wins on the board.
Yeah, and for Alo Gaming, if they're able to close out this series, they put themselves in the best position possible to fight for that third seed, the final spot in the S group that allows them to escape having to play for their lives in the survival week, which will take place after this weekend and the conclusion of ranking week. Alo Gaming take one last look at these two compositions as we get ready to head onto the Gorge for a second game of the series between Alo and Virtus Pro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that the Alo Gaming picked up the Motsu, right? Because I feel like if the side of VP went for the Motsu, they could really stop Ogryn getting in, especially with the Path of Passing, trying to set up those huge engage, because Vermont is going to be the front line of these teams, right? Mayim with a steady behind, looking to pick off the back line, but ultimately it is all down to the Ogryn, because you've got the Ganon Mo, Lomax on one of his big picks here, trying to do a lot of damage, but right now, got to make sure he gets the guard her grave, so if they do dive in, he can still get out.
A lot of aggression by Oroba Alma on that Motsu is able to help Lomax fight their way into the board camp, deny some resources away, but already there was an early invade from Alim on the Pei. I'm not sure what the early pathing was, but they didn't get a chance to at least snipe away the blue buff. However, Solista in trouble, just a little too far forward on the Arlie, and it's a quick collapse from Virtus Pro for first blood.
Yeah, this is the problem when you leave your farm lane on his own lonesome, right? Especially playing the Arlie. If you get CC'd, you can't use that umbrella to navigate where you're going to be, right? Like, you're expecting to reposition on that Paracel very early on, but the fact that Celesta was CC'd, that Paracel made its whole way around the 360. So even if you went into the positioning of the Paracel, you'd be behind the enemy team, which is exactly not where you want to be.
Just really great timing for Virtus Pro, and unfortunately for Solista, just maybe a little too overextended. Gotta make sure and remind the representatives of Peru, winning the first game does not win you the first series. Just gotta lock in and continue maintaining that composure as the 2v2 continues to erupt. A lot of damage from Solista, maintaining his firepower and using the shiftability on these Parasols.
Yeah, the mobility is very high on the Arlie pick, but then pairing that with the Motsu on Oroba Alma is going to be really good for them, because again, setting up the Cannon Blast gets them stunned in position for a very great engage for the Arlie to try and get these early game kills. But the first blood obviously did go over to VP, which is a big improvement from game one.
We talked about what we wanted to see from Virtus Pro, a little bit more proactivity, and especially when you are using the Pei Byron combo, that has to come in full spades. Oh, big CC combo right onto Prince. Was in danger, but still had a flash and the infinite vastness, so did not need to pop either two of those abilities or skills, but at least for Virtus Pro, their farm laner is going to be forced to recall.
Yeah, I feel like we're waiting for Ollie's common skill to be off cooldown here, but I mean, 1v1 up with the Clash lane, a little bit of tit for tat. Shishu looking like he's dealing a lot of damage, but didn't quite get the kill onto the Doxa. But oh, those couple blades are now hitting.
I think Doxa was able to snipe away the Sprite, was waiting in the brush, and then just yoinked it away at the last possible second, which definitely might be a little frustrating for Shisu, but just making sure that I can at least still maintain pressure in the top side. Ulti already expended by Shisu, still at full HP, but just trying to maintain priority as we shift our focus towards the bot side. The Overlord and the Tyrant spawning in the next 40 seconds. You can already see that Alo still trying to maintain the pressure here.
Maintain the pressure, maintain the goal lead, and maybe even trying to get a kill. I mean, we are seeing a lot of heavy rotations from the mid lanes into the farm lane because they know how much of a priority that is, and they know that that was Alo Gaming's MO in Game 1, right? They don't want to let that fall as early as they did in Game 1 because that's where all the troubles start to brew.
Yep. Trying to protect that tier 1 turret from falling, making sure that Prince is receiving enough resources to sustain themselves, and ensuring that he does not fall behind the gold curve against Solista's farm laner of choice this time around. It is the exchange of carries. Arlie versus Loon now flipped. Iron has spawned on the bot side of the map. Neither team has shown at least pressure priority, but as I say that, Vermont immediately trying to burst it down, and just thanks to the burst from Lomax on the Ganemo, they just yoink it under the nose of Virtus Pro.
Trading the Azure Golem, though, for the Tyrant is a little bit of a troublesome one there, right? I mean, Orgren definitely relies on that, so Lim definitely getting something where he couldn't get the neutral objective. Taking the very well sought for Azure Golem is definitely the case for the side of VP, and a very good trade, right? But it's still up for grabs for Alo Gaming. We could see Vermont come through here trying to steal VP's Azure Golem. They're able to get it. It does go over to Lomax, though. Again, still a good pick to give the Azure Golem over to, so he's not running out of mana, and he's getting that cooldown reduction on those freshly forward plates.
And Lomax has been so vital in just putting so much pressure on the bottom side of the map, using the range and the power of this Ganemo. It continues, even though that Virtus Pro has not seceded the control on their tier 1 turret, you can still feel the pressure being felt, and Alo Gaming trying to continue scaling their way through the early game. We have to remind everyone that this is a more early game aggressive composition from the side of VP, as Robo Alma trying to set up a pick here. 3v2, Lomax is here waiting in the wings. Grizzly Q will not escape the infinite vastness used by Prince to dodge out on any other incoming burst.
Yeah, I mean, it was a valiant effort, right? He tried to stop the thing inside the box, which he did, but at that point, he sacrificed himself. Potentially, this T1 into the farm lane. A lot of that. Oh my gosh.
Flash from Lomax. He was ready to finish off Prince, but still had a flash available. Doesn't need to use it. Will escape, but the pressure starting to come in spades for the side of Alo Gaming. Now, Shisu has rotated over to the bottom side of the map, trying to wait for a trap to spring alongside a limb on the Pei. But we haven't really seen that much action, that much proactivity from Alim's pace so far. He is very ahead in terms of gold and experience right now. We'll see if he starts to be able to leverage that pressure as he goes for a quick dive. Solista, and feeling the pain of the Pei.
Solista is definitely feeling the pain of that 3v1, right? I mean, they didn't really get anything onto the side of Alo Gaming just yet, but okay, Doxa.
Doxa, 1v1 on the tower against Prince. Gets the flash out. Doxa barely survives. The turret aggro was getting a little scary for him. But now, at least Alo Gaming can communicate, hey guys, if Prince does not have infinite vastness, he is a sitting duck.
Yeah, that's when you go, they get a green flag, right, for trying to take down the Organ, but here we are. They might try and take the T1 down into the farm lane. They are able to get it.
Okay.
Lim actually once more getting more improvements onto the side of VP in this game too. Not only getting first blood, but also getting the first T1. Respectively as well, Lim is playing a lot more proactive, a lot more of a invade into the enemy jungle, like we saw him steal the Azure Golem for the neutral objective, which is that Tyrant.
Yeah, even though we haven't seen that many kills come out from Alim in the first few minutes, once he has hit big item spikes, the first one being completed on this pay, he is immediately starting to try to leverage that pressure, that early game, mid-game spike, where he is super strong, being able to push 1v1 on the side lanes, trying to pick off any stragglers here. And he is not necessarily playing a super bloodthirsty game, but he's just using himself as a tool of pressure. As now Alo, have they overextended too far forward? Alim tries to go for the collapse here, but he's trying to dance in between. They find the first kill on the Lomax, and Alim's able to clean up Doxa now. They continue the chase. Robo Alma forced to flash away, but cannot escape the power of Virtus Pro. And this is looking like a more confident Virtus Pro, the representatives of Kazakhstan, making sure that they do not go down this series easily.
I mean, this is just showing the pure privilege of when you have a good lung on your team, right? I mean, the flaming bombs coming through, not only do they run down your enemy team, they're great at taking these turrets down, and especially when your team's fighting on two fronts. We saw in that team fight that there was like 3 to the back, 2 to the front, and it definitely went in the favor of VP. They navigated that team fight very well, traded kills into 2 T1s as well. This is definitely the Virtus Pro we wanted to see.
And now we're seeing a more competitive series. Alim continuing to put the pressure with the rest of the squad, finding the tier 2 turret on the top side. And just like that, Blam, as we were seeing a very even gold game from both teams, all it takes is that one snowball, the first turret falling. Immediately after Alim finds the tier 1 onto the bottom side, it opens up the map for more picks, and that's where Virtus Pro just starts to let the dominoes fall.
Exactly, yeah, that's the beauty about Honor of Kings, right? I mean, I think you must have just like bent into my brain there, Rafa, but my next like point was going to be, it's all about when that first domino falls on the game of Honor of Kings, because that's when it starts to set up like this.
Yep, Doxa has no room to escape to. The rest of Alo were trying to collapse fast, but they just could not do it quickly enough. There is some pressure on the bottom side that Duelista is exacting into the tier 2 turret on the bot side, but Alim can always answer it. And you got to be careful when now going up against a pay that, you know, quiet for the first few minutes of the game, but as soon as that first item spike came in, he is now the highest level 15, whereas Vermont is still only level 12 on the Ogryn.
What happens when you take the foot off the gas, right? When you pick the Ogryn, you need to maintain. It's quite like weary, right? Like the fact that you have to be so aggressive all the time for the Ogryn to work, it kind of just shows that some of these players cannot necessarily maintain that momentum. And right now, speaking of momentum, is definitely Virtus Pro as they take that T2 down into the farm lane. So they've got to be careful. Alo Gaming looking very shaky right now, especially with a 5k gold lead going over the side of VP. Shadow Tyrant's up, Shadow Overlord up. Is this where we see Alo Gaming try and get a bit more pressure onto their team? Let's see.
They're trying to rip the Overlord right now. This is a gutsy call. You already see that Vermont is trying to make more damage onto the Overlord, but they have to forfeit it. And Lomax caught out in the rotation, quickly made by Virtus Pro. Quick recall from Vermont in the shadows will at least guarantee that he is able to escape, but Solista not going to be the same case. And Alim even finding a straggler on the Roba Alma, who is trying to make a quick recall under the safety of their own base. But now Virtus Pro on the verge of bringing us to a game 3.
Yeah, I mean, like I was excited about the Motsu pick, right? But when you're playing Motsu onto the back foot, it's very hard to make ends meet with this pick. Cannon Blasts are just hitting a little bit too far away. Yes, you can kind of delay the inevitable, especially at this point of the game where VP are at your high ground turrets, especially into the Clash lane. Looking to take the T2 into the mid lane. The Cannon Blast only really just delays just the timing of these minions. Yes, we have Lomax onto the Ganon mode that's really good at the wave clear, but they have to maintain the Ganon mode's positioning into these team fights. But when they are aggressing you, like Shisu on Byron, like Alim on the pay, it's very difficult. You don't have that privilege.
And he's been doing such a stellar job of using the mobility, being able to quickly navigate throughout the gorge, pressuring the side lane, knowing that no one can beat him in a 1v1, and even in a 1v2. There's just not enough reliable lockdown from the side of Alo to keep Alim in place so that they can burst him out before he's able to make his escape in Tiger form. This is the push and pull that we have seen used by the best teams in the Major West League whenever they have something like a pay and they're able to successfully get the snowball to happen specifically on this hero. We know that Pay doesn't have that much to offer in terms of utility if he's behind, but when he's ahead like this, nearly 5,000 gold up on top of Vermont's Ogryn, this is the gameplay you can expect.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Orgrin behind at this point is kind of like you're just basically susceptible to so much damage, right? Like there is no sort of HP regen by this time on the enemy team. They have the likes of the Venomous Staff come through as well. We saw Red build this quite a while ago. So it's already sort of to show that the cracks are showing on this Orgrin pick, and Vermont not having the greatest of control in the early game is now obviously showing the damage splitting onto the side of Halo Gaming. They need to sort of repair, or they're going to be taking this to game 3.
First high ground turrets in both top and bot already made. Did he get a little too far forward? Okay, big shutdown for Halo Gaming. Now it's a 5-on-4. Infinite Vastness already used by Prince to reposition Halo Gaming. Can they make a comeback happen? The Flash is trying to drive into the back line. Doxa finds Red, and now it's the rest of VP that are under fire here. Halo Gaming's continuing to pushing the pace, whereas Vermont is just going to continue picking up farm on the bottom side. Prince does equalize the trade, finds Doxa in the back, but what a massive find for Halo Gaming.
Oh, huge fight. I mean, 4-2-2 trade, right? But at the same time, they have to do a little bit of housekeeping before they can get ahead. I mean, it does give Solista a little bit of time to breathe, right? Get the farm up into the jungle. He's able to get potentially go for the Crimson Golem here. It's no use onto Vermont at this moment because he's not going to be doing the right amount of damage. It needs to be funneled into Solista. Obviously, he's not fully itemized. He's got the Cloud Piercer going into the Daybreaker. He needs his item online before they can start to take some really good team fights. Getting this Shadow Tyrant could be the change of tide for the side of Halo Gaming.
Lim is nearby, could easily threaten to steal it, but maybe it's a trap laying in the shadows here. Oh, but Prince already dealing with Robo Alma, and Lim is going to say, thank you very much. I'll take that Tyrant. He does go down, but Solista is equalized in the trade. And now Virtus Pro, they don't have to worry about an Arlie. It's just an Ogren. It's just a Ganemo and a Mayin. Should be enough for them to continue the pursuit and the chase as they look for another pick. Near the box side of the map, the farm lane under fire. A Lim finishing off Lomax as well, and the rest of Virtus Pro equalize the series. We're going to game 3.
Yep, game 3, thanks to a valiant effort from Virtus Pro in game 2. Like I was saying in that game, Mode 2 becomes a little bit harder to work when you're playing on the back foot, especially with Grizzly Q on this Diadea, completely locking him out of the think inside the box, which we know is an infamous combo where we use the flash, the dash in, and then think inside the box into the back line and hope you catch out like the likes of the Pay. But thanks to the Diadea with a bit of farewell and also the enhanced basic attack, it knocks him straight out of that status. So unfortunately, you're just expanding your ultimate, not catching anybody, and you're now down a team member as you're going into a 4v5 fight, which is not the best point when you're already behind.
Yeah, couple things here, Blam. One, Virtus Pro made great adaptations in their early game execution in terms of protecting Prince on the bottom side of the map. They didn't leave him alone under the tower multiple times. They ensured that they were constantly rotating, having Red hover on the bot side, matching Lomax's God and Mo. They were also ensuring that their support was sticking by Prince the entirety of the laning phase and making sure that just because you had a long doesn't mean you should be, leaving him to his own devices in a 1v1 side lane. And even though we were slightly concerned that a Lim on the Pay wasn't getting a lot of, bloodthirsty kills on the top side of the map where he was focusing a lot of efforts, he was getting that gold for himself. He was counter jungling. He was, accelerating himself to the best of his ability without, taking objectives. They got that first tower on the bottom side of the map because of the pressure that he was able to get and the first spike that he was able to get into the game. And even though Vermont didn't necessarily feel, completely choked out of the jungle as we normally see from the other top teams, once they found that first tower, that's when all the resources started to bleed away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can kind of see what happened with the resources here in this game 2, but look at that. Lim is about 4k difference over Vermont in the jungle. But I mean, at that fast pace, the way that it was dominating that early game in terms of taking the T1s very quickly down into farm lane, basically paying back Halo Gaming for that game 1 dominance. definitely just showed on a knock-on effect for the side of VP. This is definitely what they need to do. This is their MO. They need to play like this. They don't need to play reactive. We've seen it before. Their reaction isn't the greatest. They need to set the tone. They need to dominate. And right here, we can see the domination come through, the damage dealt right. 64k for the side of Elim, 67k for the side of Prince. Red just behind them with 50k as well. But I do have to give it over to Grizzly Q, right? Like, if it wasn't for this dire Dia, I think it would be dire straits for the side of VP.
And definitely just making sure that Prince's protection was at an all-time high in this second game. And now, as we get ready for Game 3, I already have a prediction on who the MVP of this game is going to go to on the side of Virtus Pro. It definitely was the most instrumental change for the side of this squad to be able to at least equalize the series. But I want to continue the conversation of now, what do Alo Gaming do now that they're on the back foot?
Now they're on the back foot. They just need to make sure. I mean, obviously, what it seems to be like is the fact that when the Lung was drafted, that's who got the win, right? Like, they were just making sure they were funneling everything into the Lung. They basically resolved the mistakes they had in game 1 for the side of VP, which was the fact that the enemy's mid lane was always down to the bot side of the map, whereas Red was trying to get down there, but it wasn't always the case when it came to when he was needed, right? But also, this was one of the big defining factors, was a limb on the pay. Clearly, after suffering the masterclass from Dowdo, he's learned that the pay is a pick he has to play. And 613 KDA, 24% of the damage dealt, 24% of the damage taken, but still, in the game, only taking 1 L of a death is definitely the performance we needed from Elim. He stepped up when he needed to.
And this was such a big morale booster. You even saw that in the game-winning moment of the player cams for the side of Virtus Pro, Elim exchanging high fives and, you know, just good, like, gap ups from both of his solo laners. They knew how big it was for not just his individual morale, but also for the team's morale to have their jungler, who has been, you know, one of the stars for this team, to have a big pop-off moment when they needed it most.
Absolutely. I mean, Elim back in his old roster was definitely one of the star players then. So leaning on Elim is exactly what they need to do on Virtus Pro. Whether it's because the other teams know that that is the case, that's why they're able to conquer VP a lot of the time. But when the time matters, like I just said, Elim definitely shows up. When he's given his opportunity, he tries his absolute best. We saw that in Game 2 against 9CG when he finally got the alarm pick as well. Much better for him. He definitely suits the assassin playstyle rather than the tanks. But we do have to give obviously props up to Grizzly Q. He was one of the defining factors of stopping a robot alarm, actually gets in there and gets stuck in with the thing inside the box and really turn the tide of those team fights. But yes, MVP worthy is Elim's performance on that pay.
And now we find ourselves for the first time today a Game 3 moment. When we come back after this break, it will be the exciting conclusion between Virtus Pro and Alo Gaming.
What's a life without its worth? Compromising with what hurts inside. When you let fear decide your fate, you don't choose which path to take alive. In life, I'm finally letting go of everything that still holds me. I'm against the loss, but I won't give up, 'cause it's my time to shine. Standing in the spotlight, and no one let me down. Destiny is calling high and light. I'm not afraid to fall.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 3 between Alo Gaming and Virtus Pro. Both of these squads were able to show strong feats of strength and tests of might in both of their respective victories. But now, both of these teams, 1-1 in the series, it all comes down to one last game. And for Alo Gaming, it is that much more important to close out the series to ensure their best chances for a chance for that 3rd seed. Whereas for Virtus Pro, even though they're already locked in for the A group and having to play in that survival week, more victories ensures more morale and more confidence going into such an important set of games next weekend.
Yes, and there is the up-to-date global ban pick, right? I mean, we thought that Alo Gaming were playing it smart with the Organ, right? And knowing that LM already exhausted the Masashi, thinking that, right, okay, there's no real counters. They ban out their own Liampo, so they can't get the pairing of the Liampo with it, which I think is smart because they did result to the Mutsu, which has a very fine line within the win condition. They have to play from the front foot, right? They have to play with their best foot going forward. Unfortunately, for the side of Alo Gaming, though, the fact that they were able to activate onto the side of VP with those very early invades, takedowns of the T1s into the farm lanes, really opening up those win conditions, which we saw in game 1 for Alo Gaming with the Lung getting such great presence into the farm lane, was really the difference night and day for Virtus Pro.
And now, a lot of these power picks have not just been chosen by one team, they've been chosen by both teams, so you don't even need to ban them if you are the other team going into the final selection of this series. But it also means more creativity and more of the depth of these hero pools are going to be explored because all the power picks are gone, and now it's anyone's game.
It's anyone's game, right? Like you said, Lung has gone, and you can't really be relying on the Dragon himself to clean this game 3 for you. So they are going to be looking at the marksman pool now. Obviously, we still have the likes of Chano available. Chano, I believe, was not banned in game 2, but was definitely hovered over. It wasn't picked in game 1. I don't historically like the Chano in game 1. I feel like it's an exhaustion of a not one of the greatest picks into the farm lane. Still a very good pick, but for a game 1 draft, as we've seen statistically, I only speak in stats, I don't speak in opinions. Every game that's been drafted in game 1, it has lost. So, case point solved by Blam. Thank you very much. But getting onto the BP here, we are seeing that Alo Gaming's going to go over to red side, so they do get the reactive to red picks come through here. So depending on what VP try and prioritize here, on the blue side, they banned the Luna, they banned the Dharma, 2 big picks for Doxa and Vermon. Is going to be a little bit of a telling tale here. Did they decide to go for the Dolia? For personal reasons, I pray not, but it would be great for them. There we go. I'm done.
Oh, baby. Lamb just really smurfing it in terms of picks and bans so far, and just saying to all the Chano Game 1 believers, checkmate, baby. Now, Virtus Pro locking in the Celestial Melody user. For Alo Gaming, what is the response now?
The response now, there we go, the Chano. Like I said, it's getting into that game 3 territory, which when we look at the KPL region, this is generally where they like to draft the Chano. It's generally not like a first game thought, it's generally towards that game 3. And with a great pairing of the Sakir into the farm lane, I feel like with the Mulberry power, the knockups, the healings, they could be very fruitful for the side of Alo Gaming.
In a lane being hovered, a Clash laner, we don't see that often in this tournament so far, but I know that Yumu's has sung the praises of how powerful this hero can be in the right hand. Shisu locking it in for themselves in red now, this time taking a spin of the Ganemo.
Taking a spin at the Ganemo, but it makes sense, right? With the Dolia, this is generally what likes to come through into the mid lane, the burst potential for this, but not only that, the fruitfulness of this lane, right? 2 death on sunsets, access into the back line is going to be very troublesome for Chano. I can imagine that we're going to get this sprint come through as well for the lane, just to make it a little bit easier to track down this this marksman of the farm lane. But look over to Alo Gaming. They do lock in the newer, quite a bit of control come through if they can land those blocks correctly, but also the effect of the Annihilation. Annihilation has been such a great oppressive ultimate into these team fights, right? Just whittling down the health of the enemy team, but then also those crucial kill thefts that came through in Season 3 from Mitsura of Elevate Esports. Ooh, huge! Earning him some bag, but also earning him some glory on the Gorge.
little surprised that Halo Gaming are afraid enough to ban the monkey away from Alim, since it did not show it was the most comfortable in Alim's wheelhouse the first time we saw it earlier today in their series against 9Z Globin. But just, you know what, enough respect to not let it go their way. Yuhuan also taking the ban table from Halo Gaming side, whereas for Virtus Pro, trying to target the jungle pool as well. Both the Agudo and the Musashi taken off the table. Oh, wait, they haven't locked in an Ogren for Virtus Pro yet. This is an angle.
It is an angle. It is an angle. Is it the right one to go for, though? I'm not too sure. I mean, they're kind of trying to predetermine onto the side of Halo Gaming. The Netza here getting hovered over. Again, has the Starfall ultimate, again, which is a lock-on ultimate. Kind of a little bit like Lubang's, but not as global. But it is going to be quite a troublesome for them, because they need to be trying to build some true damage come through to actually try and take down the Netza. But at the same time, I do respect the ban of the Agudo. Not because I'm an Agudo stan, but the fact that it would work very well into Halo Gaming's draft, right? The fact that they have the Wild Growth to heal, but also Furball to try and get the CC into the backline of Virtus Pro could have been very huge, but they ban it out. It is maybe potentially here a limb going on the Lamb. They're like, bro, we trust you. You're not taking the Ogren, you're taking the Lamb. We've got you.
That's right. And honestly, I'm in that same camp with them on the side of Virtus Pro. If we have seen where Alim is able to excel, it is when he is able to be a damage dealer, a threat himself. Ogren, not quite the same presence if you have to be farming and focusing on getting those item spikes for yourself, whereas Alim can at least farm up a majority of the early game, but can still look for those picks thanks to the depth from below. And if it just comes down to a similar case where we saw on the pay, not much action, but just farming up and then exacting his power off of that first item spike, but a Guan Yu hover from the side of Halo Gaming. Does it get locked in? That's the question, Doxa. Yes, it does. Okay. The Red Mare Rider makes his way to the Gorge once again.
So top marks for creativity here. So it's it's more likely to be the Netza into the jungle here. Yes, it is. So that Starfall, his ultimate, is going to be a little bit easier to actually proc onto his enemies, because he's going to be very close by rather than being all the way up to the clash lane. Guan Yu, however, the win condition for Guan Yu onto Halo Gaming is the fact that they actually put the pressure into the clash lane, get the T1 very early, so then Guan Yu, Doxa, can actually just roam around onto the Gorge and offer his best help over to his teammates. But they have a horse, they have wolves. What more could they want?
Animal spirits. It's almost a shame that they couldn't get the Agudo, because then you would have had like a trio of animal summoners right there. But for the side of Halo Gaming, when they saw the Gonamo locked in, I wanted to bring this up to you, Bland. It seems like there's a big battle of long range in the mid lane.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the burst range as well, but the thing is with the Ganamo, the one scenario I can see kind of coming to fruition here is the fact that they're going to try and take away the Guard Her Grave much early, try and exhaust the common skill on Ganamo, so he has no way of escaping. That's when the Netza comes through, right? That's when the Guan Yu comes through, because they'll just dive in on top of this pick. There's no way to get out of there. The only real way they can try and push them away is with the Lam, right? Using the death from below, trying to clear them out of the range of Ganamo that he can get to live another day. Red is going to be on the hot seat.
For the final time between these two teams, we're taking to the Gorge. Virtus Pro and Halo, both one game score apiece. This final game will net them the victor of the series. We're going to see how it all unfolds. As now Virtus Pro, a couple of members fishing around on that top line brush, mirrored by Halo Gaming.
Exactly, they're looking for something right there, just trying to make sure they can try and suss it out. But this is what I was talking about in the BP, right? This is what they need to do. Doxa needs to have a solid lane before he can even think of moving out of it, right? He needs to get that priority in there and then just deal what he needs to do across the Gorge.
And you see Vermont foregoing his first camp, just making sure that they get the first wave pushed in, and now Doxa helping him speed on through all of these camps to just match the tempo that Alim is trying to go for with his own full clear. And having finished the bot side, making his way towards the top side now.
Yeah, you can kind of see that it's already slower on the Netza, right? And that's why we see that Doxa goes in to try and give a bit of a hand there. But again, at the same time, it's the true damage that they're going to really trying to be focusing for to try and take down the Netza. So again, it's very oppressive with his ultimate, so they've got to make sure they check out, well, watch out where it comes for, because again, it's going to be a hot focus, a red seat, a nuclear button for the side of Halo Gaming.
The question is, who is going to press that button, Blam? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell, but right now we're looking at the gold lead, right? And Halo Gaming is just ever so slightly ahead. It's not the greatest lead, but it's early game lead. They just need to make sure they put this potential on. We are seeing a bit of a teleport here, maybe to scare them. Lomax actually goes in.
Oh my goodness, maybe a potential pick. Good use of the spells there. My goodness, the new hero can be definitely impressive. Already burning the skills from Prince and Grizzly. Meanwhile, topside 2v2. This is where the action has got to be for the side of Halo Gaming to see if they can find that advantage. A limb forced out of the clash lane, and both Vermont and Doxa maintaining priority.
This is probably a bit of a Hail Mary for the side of a VP with Shisu going for the lane, because with his Moonlight Slash, with the procs, he has that CC immunity. So if they do try and come through with the Ganamo's, not the Ganamo, so the Guan Yu's push around and the Razor Cavalry, he's going to be able to try and negate that.
Almost a pick onto Lomax in the mid lane after the 2v2 or 2v1 Virtus Pro were trying to exact. They did burn the flash out of the Lomax's Nuwa there, and that last bit of damage from Red, not able to find its mark there, but a lot of common skills already burned off the board in the first couple of minutes here, Blam.
They've got to be careful. They are very susceptible to ganks, and that is Red. Looking at Red, that's potentially the gank where it's going to go to, right? Obviously, Alim knows this. He's staying quite close by his buddy. He's able to go for his Azure Golem. He's keeping that intact, because a lamp without the Azure Golem is a little bit of a non-starter, right? You really want that cooldown reduction on those skills.
Things have quieted down now in the past 30 seconds. We're just about 45 seconds away from the neutral objective spawning. Halo Gaming continuing to leverage the pressure on the bot side of the map, making sure that Prince is not getting ahead of Solista in this farm lane duo as, potential 3v2 die, but here comes the reinforcements. Vermont riding in on that Nutsa and finds first blood on the Prince.
This is thanks to his ultimate, right? He was able to kind of mimic the teleport from Shisu or from the Clash lane, right? Like, even though he was able to come in with the teleport and the death at sunset, he was able to be untargetable by the turret, but still, Netza into the backline takes down Prince, which is huge damage taken from the side of VP.
And Halo Gamer are able to ensure the push into this farm lane thanks to Lomax waiting in that brush right behind them. Guarantees that everyone should be able to get a safe recall, or at least Solista continuing to farm up on this Chano. Neither team has gone for the Tyrant just yet, but Alim is on the bot side, whereas Vermon's Nutsa is still on the top.
Yeah, I mean, Netza doesn't have the fastest clear right onto the Tyrant himself, so he kind of needs back when it comes to that. So I feel like they're going to try and get a bit of priority into the farm lane before they even attempt to go for the neutral objective down there. But right now, you're kind of seeing that between Netza and the Lamb, it's very pretty much neutralized gold lead.
A really good CC onto Roba Alma, was stunned into the wall. Rest of VP now able to at least force that wave to crash in, setting up priority around this Tyrant, but it did come at the cost of Prince's ultimate. And now the rest of Halo Gaming trying to respond. Good toggle by our observers, just showing that VP don't have any information outside the river.
Exactly. I mean, I've just copped there onto Vermon's build. He's actually gone for the attack speed boots, as well as the blazing cape. So anti-heal coming through, as well as the attack speed onto Netza. So he wants to get quite a few of those jabs in, but it looks like the neutral objective is going to go over to VP this time. Uncontested, as they were able to put pressure thanks to Shisu with the teleport down into the farm lane.
Virtus Pro ensuring the secure of that first objective of the game. Neither team has been able to get the first turret so far. Any of those Solista went to the top side trying to put the turret damage. A lot of damage on the Roba Alma, but manages to escape from danger. Here comes Vermont trying to collapse onto a limb. The death from below at least used to escape, but Halo Gaming get what they came for, and they knock out the first turret.
Okay, the first turret is exactly what they want, right? That Skyfall coming in to just be so aggressive. He's kind of like, right, I'm safe within my T1. And then all of a sudden, Netza, Vermont, out of nowhere, boom. And then on top of him, you've got like Lomax coming in as well. But here we are looking to pay back the dividends here. Is a lane.
Maybe some revenge. Is it enough damage? No. She's just a little too far forward. Was trying to see if they could at least get one pick onto the backline there. But Alo Gaming, they were all surrounding the pick on Shisu.
Surrounded the pick on Shisu again, just punishing that kind of aggression from the lane, right? They're kind of. I think VP are coming with a misconception that the lane is going to become unchecked, but unfortunately, that is not the case. The Netzer, the Guan Yu are making sure work of that, and the fact that they have a soaring signal from Chano, they're just procced in that at the right time to kind of push him away. Just a nudge. It's not the biggest push away, but it's enough to create space to get out of there. Same with the line.
And if you use it at the right time when the divers and the threats are already exhausted all of their mobility, you put them in an awkward spot. It's like, well, I can't gap close onto you anymore, and if I use one more gap closer at this point, that's still a lot of damage. Flash immediately from Red, trying to escape danger there, does manage to get away. But as I was saying before, if you exhaust all your mobility spells to gap close and then you cannot reach them, then you're just a sitting duck and you have no way out.
Absolutely sitting duck, right? I mean, that's the problem with this team. I mean, even Red, though, he's been very cheeky with this Ganamo. Like, he's going in there, he's like, I'm poking you, and you can't do anything about it. Guan Yu goes on top of him, as well as Lomax as well, but still manages to get out of there. He's being very, very cheeky, very playful with this pick. He has to be careful. He's got to make sure that he doesn't kind of get caught out, because that is only, like, a moment's notice.
Gold lead has been even so far. Despite 2 kills going over to Alo Gaming side, Virtus.pro at least have been able to equalize in pressure on the map with the first Tyrant secured for themselves and being able to get a T1 on the bot side. So even though that Alo have control on the top side of the map, the reverse is the same for Virtus.pro on the bottom side.
Yeah, they're just trying to kind of mimic the advancements for both of these teams, right? They want to make sure that neither of those two side lane turrets get opened up right now, because again, this has been the MO for both of these teams. Very early on, opening the side lanes means that the enemy's jungles are just a little bit more attainable for their side, but at the same time, they've got to make sure that they are keeping their farm lane alive, right? Because there's a lot of damage that they will lose out if Solista or Prince goes down.
Roboamo just giving a little love tap with that knock-up onto the majority members of VP. Virtus.pro now overloading on the top side of the map, while as Vermon trying to equalize on the bot side, but will not get a chance to knock down the tier 1 like Virtus.pro did on the top side. That's an easy Overlord rip on the side of Virtus.pro.
So yeah, very quick takedown of the Overlord, but it kind of translates into that, right? Take the T1 into the flash lane, get the Overlord, maintain the pressure. More brute power being committed here, able to actually get the slam onto Shisu, but he's able to run out of there thanks to the sprint. But now that Alo Gaming know that could be a susceptible gank for Shisu.
Next time that Shisu steps a little too far forward could be the demise of this lane. Alo Gaming still needing to find these windows where they can quite open the game. Because Virtus.pro, despite, suffering a couple kills, they have still been playing the map relatively well. Oh, that's a lot of damage. And there's the downfall. Vermon super deep into the backline. Not able to finish anyone off, but did pressure a limb away from the rest of the group. Force a recall. But at least for now, Virtus.pro hold on to their members.
Very good defense of the T1 in the mid lane, right? Like, they were not letting that go. Even though the pressure was laid on thick, VP were like, bro, you're not getting this. You're not getting this T1. It's la 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 la. You're not gonna get it. No, no, no. Unfortunately for the side of Alo Gaming, they tried it, but it is gonna be the 10-minute mark of very, very soon, where we can see the Shadow Overlord come through. Could be the nutcracker for that mid T1.
And once you're able to get control of the mid portion of the map, that's where it gets a lot easier for these teams to snowball this lead. It's still been a dead even game despite the kills being in Alo's favor. Doesn't matter if you're not able to get as much of a macro advantage, but with the Shadow Overlord and Tyrant spawning, the choice for Virtus.pro is Tyrant, and the Overlord goes over to Alo Gaming.
Yeah, we saw the attempted annihilation trying to get the crucial kill trap there, but I think it's a good chance for Alo Gaming to come back here. The fact that they're able to get the Overlord, Shadow Overlord, sorry, able to prop down those Shadow Vanguards is going to try making these pushes on these 3 lanes a little bit easier for them. I don't think that, no, Chano's still holding on to the drop down of this one. Maybe to clear out this mid wave potentially to try and open up a bit of pressure for the side of Alo Gaming.
We'll hold on to it now. and Alo Gaming will decide when is the time to strike the Empowered Shadow Vanguard. Now, VP circling around this tier 1 in the mid lane, looking for some pressure there. Already kicked. Doxa stepping up, taking a lot of damage here. The dive from Shisu forcing away the members of Alo Gaming. They don't even need the Shadow Overlord. It's just the ruthlessness of their composition making it happen.
Yeah, ruthlessness in the composition, making it happen. A lot of the damage, we saw that Vermon was trying to go for a split push down into the bot side of the map to take the T2, but all he had was the Vanguard. The Vanguard wasn't going to do enough damage. Neither was the Netza, right? So again, we saw the effort. It didn't quite translate into anything, so they need to try and reconfigure what they can do to try and take that T1 into the mid lane, just to replicate the damage that's already been dealt to this team. But in terms of the gold lead, it's not very far between these two teams.
Robo almost got to be careful. There isn't a limb on the left flank here, but able to buy space, and here comes the collapse. The rest of Alo Gaming trying to swarm onto the members of Virtus Pro, but they deal with Doxa, and now the tides have turned. They've suddenly run out of gas, and it's Virtus Pro that are looking to take vengeance onto Alo Gaming, who are now trying to take the retreat, but Solista able to rack up the damage here on the Wolf, able to kite them back, but Red still finds the snipe on the Vermon in the back, and now Alo Gaming down to 3 members. Can they find it? No, Solista falls, Robo on his next, and Virtus Pro patient with the play, baiting them in forward, thinking that Alo Gaming could have had a chance back into this fight, but Virtus Pro are victorious.
Yeah, very nice team fight there for VP. They're able to take the T2 with the flash lane as well, so they're definitely trying to translate that team fight into some objectives across the gorge, and they're doing exactly that right. We see Elim is looking to push the bot side of the map as well, trying to take a second T2, making sure they keep Nua strapped to that mid lane as well. And it definitely means that they're able to claim that T2 into the farm lane. Watch out, Elaine, you get to use the Devil Sunset, but may get caught out here.
Grizzly Q very low on HP right now, but keeping his distance, ensuring that he is still able to provide all the safety and utility Virtus Pro need him to do. And just like that, Blam, Virtus Pro have been able to successfully pry open the game. They get the window that they needed, and they take almost everything away from Alo Gaming, starting with that high ground turn on the bot side.
Yeah, this is where the pressure starts to amount for the side of Alo Gaming, right? The fact that they're now going to have enhanced minions down to the bot side of the map means that there's going to be some TLC needed down to that side of the gorge. But again, it's a good place of pressure because the opposite side of the map is the Shadow Overlord. So as long as they keep maintaining that pressure down to the bot side of the map, keep that push, there's always going to be one eyes off the prize, and that's where VP could strike.
Virtus Pro now shifting their attention towards the top side of the map. Elim getting the first push on that flash lane so that they can set up shop in the top quadrant of the jungle of Alo Gaming. VP making sure to not take too much damage from any of the long-range poke from Romox's Nua. A Shadow Tyrant is available for the taking, but Virtus Pro, they know the objective that they want to secure for themselves. Meanwhile, they're only dedicating half to securing the Overlord, whereas the other half is putting eyes on Alo Gaming, making sure that they can't take the Tyrant for themselves. This is quite great map play from Virtus Pro.
Yeah, very great pressure. And this is exactly what the Elaine slash Dolia combo gives up, because accessing to the backline, double duels death at sunset means that you're just able to kind of go in, get out, but then also just push the enemy team away from the main prize. And it's just working to an absolute treat here for VP.
Grizzly Q taking a lot of damage, but no matter to the side of Virtus Pro, they still have their support ready to continue providing utility for the rest of Virtus Pro. And now with the Shadow Vanguard empowered in the Clash lane, that's putting more pressure on this top side of the map, preventing Alo Gaming from being able to invest full resources into pressuring for the Shadow Tyrant, and Virtus Pro maintaining and leveraging that pressure as a deep backline dive goes into Alo Gaming's base, just buying space. The high ground turret is successfully stricken down. Virtus Pro continuing the pressure, not losing a single man, and even though Alo Gaming able to at least survive for now, they just lose Vermon on the back.
Yeah, Vermont just fall victim to those freshly forged couple blades from Red, but Red has been playing a phenomenal game. Honestly, I don't know who to give the MVP to at this point. I mean, it's a little bit kind of overzealous for me for saying that for VP, but the way that Elim, Shisu, and Red are playing, they all deserve a very good mention in this game 3, because these are the clear driving forces of these teams. Damage coming from Red, Elim just dominating across the gorge, and then Shisu with the backline access, putting so much pressure onto Alo. Once more, poetry in motion.
Another dive initiated by Shisu, creating space, and all 3 high ground turrets are gone for the side of Alo Gaming. Their backs completely against the wall for the rest of the game. I have yet to see a moment where a team is able to come back despite having lost pretty much every single structure in every single lane, having an open crystal, and Virtus Pro just one more good fight away from closing out this series.
Yeah, I feel like the Shadow Tyrant's probably their last consideration they need for this, because again, it gives over a lot of damage to Prince. Prince already has a Spark Forge Dagger. He's going to have a lot of attack speed, and the movement speed from his passive, the D-Ranger, as well as the movement speed from the Shadow Tyrant is also going to be much beneficial. So he's going to be able to kind of readjust the positioning into these team fights a little easier. And obviously, movement speed for the lane, already taking sprint, is going to be like 0 to 90 in 2 seconds.
Alo Gaming, last stand in the making, and already they lose out on Lomax. Red does away with the mid laner of Alo Gaming, and the rest of Virtus Pro continue the siege. They continue the pressure. The crystal exposed. The comeback happens, and Virtus Pro are victorious against Alo Gaming.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from Virtus Pro. Honestly, this is probably been the cleanest I've seen them play in the entire of the Major West League. They've taken a little while to activate. Maybe it's part of the Lung game strat. I'm like, okay, ooh, we're in Group A. Oh, let's see if we can get to the top of the leaderboard, shall we? And now they're starting to show their colors, especially with the fact of adding into the best of 5 format going into the Survivor Week. It's going to be really interesting. I think this is a team to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and for Alo Gaming, unfortunately, that does take them clearly out of contention for that third seed. They are now locked into the A group. They will have to play for their lives in the Survivor Week. But for the side of Virtus Pro, even though we already knew that they were locked in that A group with them, they are able to at least get vengeance on an opponent that was, you know, hopeful they could have escaped the group, but nope. They're going to have to play against them again as we take a look at, you know, next weekend's games. But of course, for us, the series, there's still, you know, a few good things to talk about for Virtus Pro, making clear, strong adaptations, not just in picks for the composition, but also direction of the game, being proactive when they needed to, making decisive decisions on the map, and it has clearly showed to the growth of their performance so far.
Absolutely. I mean, Red in this game was absolutely like detrimental to keeping that T1 into the mid lane alive, and the fact that he was just getting such easy kills with the snipes from the couple blades as well. Not even in the late game, it was kind of like starting to show in the early game where he was really on point with knowing where to place them. Was he face checking a bush? He was always getting something from those couple blades. It was very little that whiffed with those couple blades, right? And it's showing here 6, 0, and 1. This guy was untouchable. The only 2 people to die on the side of Virtus Pro was Prince and Shisu. Understandable for Shisu. He was always diving into the back line. I'm pretty sure he only died towards the end there as well. But look at that. Just absolute clean gameplay from VP. Alo Gaming definitely need to step up going into the Survivor Week.
So many crucial snipes being made by Red on the Gaunt MO, not just early on when getting
look at that damage.
Poke damage. My goodness, 132,000. I mean, Lomax was trying to match tit for tat and able to at least break the 100k damage out point as well. But yeah, I think it just goes to show how powerful having something like a Dahlia that can basically double the damage output you're effectively getting with something like a Gaunt MO.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just that, though. I feel like it's just the Dahlia and the Elaine combo, right? The amount of time she gave over the death on Sunset all the way through to Shisu just so he could put pressure onto the back line of the team and then get out as well. But also, I feel like it's a good counter against the Guan Yu, right? Like, we've never really seen, I can't remember if we've actually seen Doxa on the Guan Yu, but it didn't quite work the way we wanted it to, right? Like, he is known for pushing, shoving, bullying the enemy clash lane. But when Moonslash has a CC immunity, it becomes much more difficult to actually bully the lane out of his lane.
It just might be a case that Keke on the Guan Yu is the only player that can really make the best use of this hero, since it is something that we don't see that often from all the other Clash laners either. Doxa tried his best, of course, but, you know, Virtus Pro just being able to prove that they were able to one-up them in the end. We're just waiting on our MVP graphic. You already talked out your contenders and your nominees. I'm just going to go ahead and slam down Gaunt MO for Red, 6-0-1, highest damage in the game. How can you argue with that?
There you
bam,
go.
there it is.
I mean, when I was saving the predictions, I said, hey, it's got to either be Red, Lim, or Shisu. So he was my first pick. So I'll take that victory too, Rafa. Don't you worry. But 6-0 and 1 right. That is a impressive performance. And the fact that he only took 12% of the damage, but dealt 40% of this damage. Those couple blades were shaving, and it wasn't when you're at the barbers. This was taking you to town. This was taking you back to your crystal.
I mean, this was some Sweeney Todd kind of action, you know? I mean,
Very much so.
This was deathly shaved.
It was cutthroat.
From the side of Red. Yep. Very cutthroat indeed. Virtus Pro. So grateful to be able to pull up such a confident performance against one of the teams that it looked like they were going to be a strong dark horse, but now, you know, knocking them down into the A group back alongside them. And now, as we look at the last two potential teams that could lock in the third seed, it seems like 9Z Globin are the favorites to get that third seed spot, but there is, I think, still a chance for Next Roya to make a conversation.
Yeah, potential. Depends on how their games go against MCoy. I feel like if they take a 2-0, they definitely have a chance at actually keeping that from NZ Global, sorry. But other than that, it depends. Obviously, Twisted Minds game is going to be very interesting against Next Roya. But these are the highlights for a VP, right? Let's not undersell how they played this game 3 against Halo Gaming, right? Just the amount of pressure Shisu was serving up in this game 3, allowing Red to just stay so far behind where he was basically untouchable to the point where he didn't die. And then look at that, man. Nets is meant to be tanky. He was shredding through them like it was shredding wheat. And then this time around, we see that Guan Yu just trying to force them into the crystal, trying to into the base to try and wipe them out, but it just wasn't enough. So much damage from the side of Virtus Pro that they definitely deserve that win. I'm very proud of them, to be honest, because they've always played a very coy game, but this time around, they did not come to mess. Hopefully, this is a sign for the Survivor Week.
Yeah, the growth definitely needed to be shown, and what at a better time now that you have, you know, at least a few days to prepare for your next set of games going into Survival Week as well, but also the fact that Virtus Pro are showing that they're not going to be a team to underestimate for the other 4 teams that end up in that Group A alongside them. We already know that Movistar Koi and Halo Gaming will be in that group with them. And now it just comes down to our last series of the day and our last series off broadcast between Twisted Minds and Next Roya. But of course, we have final series on stream coming your way right after this break.
Kings, it's an honor showtime.
We go, it ain't a river, turn it back.
We the kings, it's an honor showtime.
I feel it deep flowing through my blood. Rising up to become someone. And taking it all on my own. What a sweet victory. And taking all of my control. Awaken something deep in me.
Like flames, feel it burning inside. Take a hold of pursuit of the prize. I've been told, ain't no way to survive. Keeping all of this fire that's locked up aside. When this is the time, enter the ring. All those mental chemicals doing their thing. I got flashes of battles inside of my dreams. I was made for this moment. At least now it seems like it's time to come face to face with your fear. Been battling reasons for all of the years, and I learned how to fight them with style and grace no one's ever encountered. You say it's amazing. I'ma come out swinging when they open the gate. Go ahead, call passion, I'm calling it rage. I'm taking what's mine like I already own it. Watch but don't blink, going here to the moment.
The sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are, you are. Here's to the moment, the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are, you are.
My name is honor, my name is king, my name is champion, my name is strength.
Tell them who you are.
My name is Pentakill, you think it's strange? My name keep ringing inside of your brain.
I hear it every night. Here's to the moment the sky rained down. Here's to the madness that's all around. So tell them who you are, you are, you are. Go on, tell them who you are, you are, you are.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting ready for our final series of the day, at least on broadcast, between Nextruya and Movistar Gaming, or Movistar Koi. Now, these two teams, stories are different here, Glam. Movistar Koi, no matter what they do, they're already locked in for the A group. But like Virtus Pro, they want to play for pride. They want to show that growth and, evolution of their gameplay and the fundamentals going forward in the tournament so that they can put themselves in the best position possible, making their way through Survival League. However, for Nextruya, they have a legitimate chance to still make it to the third seed. It does have to come off the back of not just winning this series against Movistar, but also winning their series against Twisted Minds.
Exactly. I mean, there's a big mountain to climb there. I mean, if it was like any other team other than Twisted Minds, from what we've seen, how they can pull the punches with OG Esports, I would be like, yeah, sure. There's some hope there. But right now, it's kind of like Twisted Minds. They're probably looking to take this out on Nextruya. It's like, damn, we lost. Boy, whoever's next on our bracket, that's it. We're going in on them.
Yeah, I would not put it past Twisted Minds to just go even extra ham just so that they can, get their confidence morale back after, losing a series against OG Esports. But for Movistar Koi, these guys, I mean, there's a couple things that we can say that is, beneficial about this squad. And even though, their macro play has not been, the most inspirational, I think their team fighting is genuinely good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can pull back a game when they need to, right? I mean, we saw it when they played against Virtus Pro, when they played at the high ground turret. But less more about that. Let's go on to NRX game 18.
See the fire in your eyes. Gotta fight for it all. Let's go. The battle's coming. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it. The time is right for you to raise a bar. Yeah.
the mark. Yeah. Oh, let's go. The battle's calling. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it.
On the blue side. On the blue side for our final series of the day on stream, it is Next Roya, the representatives, and partner team from Turkey, the Light Chasers. You got Knight in the Clash lane, Tix in the jungle, Ryuga in the mid lane, Void in the farm lane, and Demon in the support. Now, one of the cool things about this squad, Blam, is that they're one of the few teams that actively role swaps. We saw Void play a Dharma game in the Clash lane, while Knight took the duties of playing the farm lane.
I mean, this is a thing as well that's been pretty staple for the Turkish region teams, is that, yes, they have their kind of locked-in roster, but it's been known historically within Honor of Kings Esports that they like to role swap, and they can do it effectively. So, hey, if it works, do it. But let's introduce their opponents for today, which is MKOI.
See the fire in your eyes. Gotta fight for it. Let's go. The battle's calling. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it. The time is right for you to raise a bar. Yeah. Cause you could be the greatest of them all. Yeah. Oh, let's go. The battle's calling. You better give it all you got. You gotta fight for it.
And this is their opponent. It is Movistar Koi, and it's going to be represented by Waji, Demon Cat, Kentao, Leo Lee, and Goose coming through for the last time within the ranking week. This is a team that has much to prove, but doesn't have much to gain in this win. So it is all for pride. And Virtus Pro showed that pride is enough to win a series.
Maybe it will be enough to swing the hammer for Movistar Koi, looking at least for their first series win of the entire tournament. They are still winless in terms of series score. They were able to find at least one game win, so not completely shut out of the Kings Major West League. And we have seen that this team definitely likes to experiment with the roster a bit. Kentao, originally the sub mid laner, but as soon as the first day of series were concluded, they made seemingly a permanent roster swap, having Huaji go from mid lane to the Clash lane, having Kentao come off the bench into the mid lane, and then Goose going to the support for themselves in our feature head-to-head. It is in the jungle, Blam, between Atix and Demon Cat.
Yes, in the jungle, we're seeing 27 kills to 20. We're seeing overall damage average going over to Atix. Gold per minute is 777. Oh, a very lucky number for the side of NRX. Maybe that's why they're able to sort of get here and potentially go into the third seat and into the Group S. But yes, Atix has been a well-known jungler since Season 1 Invitational. I believe he was back then on NRX, or even actually Besiktas Esports actually he was on. So yeah, he's been very well adapted, very well adjusted. He's probably one of the best junglers from the Turkish region. So again, this is why NRX have him on the team.
And while we have talked about, some of the minor strengths of MKOI, what they've been able to demonstrate in this tournament being the team fighting, they do have a chance to actually have some really strong 5-on-5s. Their map play has been their major weakness, and for NRX, these guys are masters at setting up vision traps. So if there's any team that should be fearing for their lives as they make their rotations, it should be MKOI.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you kind of being put into that kind of like vision trap there, is something like the My Shirunoi, which we know that Kentao likes to play. Is that going to be kind of the fruitful pick you really want to go for? If you've got so much vision on this pick, in a moment's instance that you could just dive on top of it, and then that's it. It's game over. But going into the BP here, we're seeing a ban on the Guan Yu. This seems very reminiscent of Keke from OG Esports, where the Knight is actually a dominative player on the Guan Yu is yet to be seen. I don't think he's actually played it in any of the broadcasted matches. Nope, he hasn't played it, so we don't know exactly what his performance is. It's clearly some insider information for the side of MKOI.
Whether it's scrim intel or just trying to lock down a Clash laner that could get exposed by the pickup of a Guan Yu early on. The Lady Sun off the bans as well from MKOI, where it is a Liang and a Dahlia being banned by the side of NRX. And the first pickup available for MKOI, looking at the list of power picks, Arlie still up and available. That's what they're thinking about. Will that be the confirmation for MKOI?
We'll have to wait and see, right? I mean, Ali has generally not had the best day today. I feel like with with actually playing the last series, Ali was always on the losing team, but we have seen that one pick has come through because it wasn't banned, right? The Mai Shiranui coming through here, as well as the Dharma. So the team that's known for getting great insight with their traps, with their intel, gives the Mai Shiranui to themselves. So again, this is probably going to be a really aggressive playstyle from the side of NRX.
Who I am.
MKOI, what do you want to round out your core with? Ogren is available, but NRX, would they be willing to just slam the Musashi as soon as that is confirmed? MKOI going to have to take their time in figuring out what the majority of the composition is going to be. You know, cannot reiterate enough that a lot of the strengths of MKOI does come down to their team fighting. These are some powerful heroes that they've already are looking at, already locked in for the Arlie, and not going to be the Xiao Chao this time around. The Yixing, powerful combo with something like the Ogre.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to go for the Yixing, right? I mean, this is game one. This is a mid lane pick that you want to be getting earlier on within the draft rather than later, especially within the best of 3. So something like a Xiao Chao would probably be more potential coming through if it was a best of 5. But honestly, it doesn't rarely come through in the competitive scene of Honor of Kings. But over to the side of NRX, it looks like they are going to be hovering potentially the Chano here. I've already stated how I'm not a fan of Game 1 Chano because the stats back me up. It's not a personal feeling because facts don't care about your feelings, clearly in Honor of Kings. So it is there as well. So I'm just putting that on the Gorge and into the Ether. But it looks like they are going to go and lock it in. So maybe they can prove me wrong. Maybe they can be the anomaly within the statistics.
Idea, the first ban from NRX going into our second round of the draft phase. Monkey being taken away by MKOI, just trying to deny any front line, any tank picks that the Tix could go to. If MKOI feel fearful of the Musashi, they can have the opportunity to make that ban happen right here.
Yeah, I feel like just with Chano, it's just playing into that kind of aggressive playstyle, right? I mean, with the leader stance, with his ultimate, having those walls charge through as well, and it's kind of the playstyle that we was alluding to with NRX. They like to put the traps into the brushes, so they have some great intel onto their enemy team. So again, it makes sense. Let's see if they can make it into a dub here. They do ban out the Monkey, they ban out the Dune as well. So again, a lot of tanks being taken off the board here for the side of NRX, but still, the Musashi could come through. Right, we are seeing the Zhang Fei onto the side of NRX, adding a tank, adding some decent front line is exactly what they needed.
MKOI, what do you round out this composition with? Already, MKOI boys knowing what they're going to lock in, giving each other high fives and dap ups to give themselves the morale and the confidence they need to clean out hopefully for their sake, the first series win of their tournament live so far. MKOI, so counting down the clock, giving themselves as much time as possible to talk over strategy, early lane states, and win conditions they want to get for themselves. But it is confirmed, Charlotte and Sakir, the final picks for the composition.
I mean, they needed some healing, right? I mean, Orgren gives himself healing. Charlotte herself gives healing, but over to the side of the Ali and the Yixing, they don't really give any healing over to themselves. So bringing the Sakir in, it sets up the Ali very nicely. It also sets up the World is my board as well. If you can try and get the Mulberry power in onto your selected target before you wrap around the World is my board onto it, it makes it a little bit easy to snare them into your board, bringing them into that trap, right? But over to the side of NRX, it's going to be Atix picking up the Jing. So again, another high frame hero like the Mai Shiranui, just having to be trying to track down here. So again, very interesting team comp, very aggressive, can be fruitful, but they got to watch out that the Orgren doesn't get that early game.
Yeah, and I'm definitely surprised that NRX didn't want to go the route of looking for a lot of CC crowd control into the answer of Ogren, but you know, their response is, we're going to basically burst you. We're going to play aggressive early on and try to outclass you in the map game. They know that just from watching the tape, MKOI have kind of struggled in the early stages of the game when they've been forced to react and respond to strong map plays being made by their opponents. If they are not able to just kind of passively get through the early stages of the game and get to the parts of the team fighting phase where they feel very enabled, then MKOI, and it has been unfortunately the story for them so far this tournament, has been consistently the story for them.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to be kind of like the team that's meant to be sort of like the rising stars, the new blood. They don't want to kind of be like a complete sort of like the opposite of blemish free. It's blemish full record this far within the ranking week. So they want to make sure they're able to try and at least get a series on the board right. Maybe try and adapt a better macro game, because that's where they definitely suffer within their gameplay. But if we look at this like draft right now, obviously they don't have the Lung. Lung has been taken, well, wasn't taken off the cards in terms of the ban. It was still on the cards, but they've decided to go with the Arlie first. Leo Lee looking like he wants to try and go for this pick first rather than the Lung, because they can try and fall back onto that in game 2.
We're on to the Gorge for game 1 of our final series on stream between MKOI and NRX. Already Ryuga using the mobility of the Mai, just getting intel and moving very fastly forward into the river. We'll see that there was 3 members fighting for control of the mid wave from the side of MKOI.
Yeah, good dodge there from Ryuga, right? I mean, if he got hit by the Mulberry Power, it would be then that Leo Lee could go in and try and do a bit of damage onto the Mai Shiranui, which would be pretty fatal in the early part of the game. But here we can see that Void is just trying to proc the passive of the Chano, trying to get a bit of damage into the brush now, but he's able to clear the minion wave pretty fast down to the bot side for NRX.
Yeah, that was a nice chunk of damage onto Lily's health bar right there. Will be forced to take the relic once it spawns off cooldown. NRX still maintaining pressure, now rotating Demon's Zhongfei over. And now we're starting to see standard lanes here. The 2v2 proceeding as normal. Top lane proceeding as normal between both of these clash laners here. And for my Ryuga actually making a feint towards the top side, seeing if he can take a dive.
Yeah, I mean, 2v1 dive here could be crucial. A lot of damage from the Mai Shiranui as well. A lot of damage just from one singular poke. That's a lot of damage onto the Charlotte. Gotta be careful.
Oh, catching Ryuga out. MKOI taking a page out of NRX's book with their own vision trap. Ryuga under fire, and Demon Cat in the seared state picks up the execute for first blood.
Yeah, very nicely done there by Demon Cat, just waiting patiently. Like I said, patience definitely pays off with an Honor of Kings. If you just wait for it, the first blood will be yours. But again, it was a good little jest here for MKOI. It gets them in the head of a lead with the gold. So this is what they need to do, right? Just play very aggressive, invade into the enemy jungle, get some camps off, get those resources, and we could be seeing a good first game here for MKOI, playing a little bit better this time around.
Yeah, and like we said, you know, for MKOI, the stakes are, in terms of trying to get into the S group, it's not available, you know? So but in some ways, you can say that the pressure has been lifted. It's all about just trying to perform the best you can and trying some things that you wouldn't normally have a chance to do so once the stakes are higher as we get into Survivor Week. So whereas next Ruya, the pressure's on them because there is still legitimately a chance to get into the S group. And so I think for MKOI, they're going to try a lot more things that we haven't seen from them before throughout this week.
Exactly, sometimes that's all it takes, right? Oh, okay, we see a little bit of aggressive playstyle here from Goose on the Sakir, taking a lot of damage from the Spirit Wolves, but it's not going to be enough to take him down. But this is the whole kind of like bait and switch of MKOI strategy, right? They're just going to be making sure that both the Ali and the Sakir are going to be moving kind of like simultaneously, so they don't know which target to actually go for, and it's working right now, especially with the rotations down from the mid lane, thanks to Kento. Putting a lot of pressure into the side lane is definitely where they need to open this up if they want to try and take this game 1.
Game is stabilized after the one vision trap that MKOI sprung onto Ryuga during the rotation. Overlord and Tyrant spawning in the next 30 seconds here. Doesn't seem like either team has shown a strong inclination, but there's a lot of vision posture right now set up by MKOI.
they're just waiting. They're waiting in the cusps of here. Like, they just want to sort of like wait in the brush and see what happens. Obviously, they knew that they were going to use a little bit of proc and prod there to see if they could actually get anybody from the brush. Keeping Kentao hidden there is probably a good point as well. Get the wave push, get a bit of pressure into the mid lane, open up this neutral objective to hopefully be uncontested for the side of MKOI, as we see the Demon Cat is starting the Shadow Tyrant.
Moving out.
Already burning down super fast, and with the ticks rotating to the top side of the map, NRX showing no interest in trying to contest for that first objective of the game, and won't even get a chance to really rip the Overlord either before MKOI have a chance to respond. So far, solid early game for the side of MKOI.
Exactly, it's very formulated, it's very well done. They've got to make sure that they don't allow sort of NRX just to keep farming up, because that's when trouble starts to happen. We do see the lead, and we actually know it was
Louis?
very chat, but yeah.
Pushing the limits. Let's go.
Very well played there by Leoli, getting the kill onto Demon. That's 2 kills up to the side of MKOI. It does actually still put them in the lead for the gold. But like I was saying there before, that was all popping up, is if they let NRX just farm up like the Attics on the Jing, like Ryuga on the Mai Shiranui, that's when it starts to become troublesome, right? Because that's when the damage starts to come through.
Lamb, do my eyes deceive me? We see an early T1 prioritized and taken by MKOI in the mid lane of all lanes. This is early snowball pressure from the side of MKOI, a team that we've really only come to know them in the first few days of the tournament as being a passive team trying to wait and scale for the team fighting phase. This is MKOI evolving and already showing a lot more proactivity in the first few minutes.
Exactly. A lesson's never too late, especially when it's in the ranking week, right? Like, this is where your lessons should be learned, and it's just how you adapt them.
Who's trying to find a knock-up engage for the rest of MKOI to collapse as they were making their approach fast. But NRX able to equalize numbers here. Demon Cat looking for a quick steal of the Azure buff. Uh-oh. Unbridled Outburst already used a lot of CC, and now MKOI, have they stepped too far forward? The world is my board from Kentao tries to control the battlefield here, and here comes the damage. The reinforcements from MKOI. Demon Cat at least able to equalize before he eventually falls, but Luli on the Arlie, just making sure that he can keep his distance and finally finish off a Tix. It's a big triple kill for the farm laner of MKOI.
Huge triple kill, but that was all set up from a not so good Unbridled Outburst. Yes, we saw he was trying to catch out the Ali, but Ali fainted out of there. That shouldn't be your prioritized target, right? Ali can get out within a moment's notice, but my gosh, MKOI with this replay, look at that. The carousel comes through, saves it. The Unbridled Outburst committed way too early, as well as the Mirror Domain, as we see the Attics is trying to feint out, do a lot of damage, but this is where Mwaji comes in. He then finishes off shop, and then it is Leo Lee claiming a triple kill towards the end here on top of Attics.
Just playing and dancing around the Parasol so stellarly from the side of MKOI's farm laner, just ensuring that he could always bait in NRX carries and threats just to the ends of his limits. And now, suddenly, this Arlie is super accelerated.
Oh, absolutely. This is definitely where they want to make sure they maintain the pressure, right? Ali, level 10. We have Chano that's level 9. They want to make sure they don't let this lead slip, because as soon as Ali gets killed and goes back to base, that's where we know that Void is going to make the most out of that opportunity. But right now, Mwaji in here.
2v3 in the mid lane. Demon Cat just ensuring that there is no pressure equalized by NRX in the mid T1, whereas MKOI able to overload on the top side of the map, getting T1 on the Clash lane. This opens up an easy overlord secure for the side of Movistar Koi, and suddenly the representatives of North America, the team that qualified through the NA Open Series, being able to clean house on them and struggle through our first few days of the ranking week, starting to show big signs of life, as now a 3v2 dive in the bot side. Mwaji making it look easy against Void.
Making it look easy. Mwaji, right? I mean, there's definitely like alliteration going on there. Make it easy, Mwaji coming through, but we are seeing a bit of pressure up to the top side of the map. It is Knight trying to take the T1 into the Clash lane, trying to pay back a little bit of dividends from the side of NRX. But yes, great plays here by overall by MKOI. They just need to make sure they don't let them get themselves a little bit too sort of like overcommitted or a little bit sort of like unlevel-headed. Is that exactly the case? But I want to point out again, Demon once more missed the Unbridled Outburst. It was on point, but it was a CC immunity that came from Mwaji. He timed that to perfection.
Now MKOI find themselves off the back of these multiple tower takes. They've taken every single T1 in every single lane. It has now given them a 3,000 gold lead. Not something that continues or guarantees game over for the side of NRX, but it is the biggest lead that MKOI has had in a game so far in the Major West.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a stark difference. It is day and night. It's as if like the team's like, oh, we're actually in an international competition right now. Awesome. Let's activate. And that's exactly what they're doing so far within this game 1 against NRX. They just need to make sure they maintain it, maintain a draft like this going into potentially game 2. But right now, it's still very early. T2 into the mid lane, still up. I do like Goose playing on this. Sakia, he's playing it very proactive.
Trying to find multiple engage. Oh, the flash through Quantra right into the wall, looking for a crucial pick onto Luli's Arlie, and that just seals the deal for NRX to be able to find such a huge pickup onto the star carry for MKOI.
Yeah, Knight meant business, right? He caught two of the most slippiest heroes into the Truth Mantra and able to come out on top of it as well. Obviously, he did lose his life. That was a 2-1 trade, but overall, it's going to be a great trade for NRX because they can take the T1 down into the farm lane and actually defend that T2 up at the clash lane as well. So maintaining that side lane is going to be crucial for them. Knight is actually going to collapse in onto the minion wave.
And now NRX are just trying to rip this Shadow Tyrant before the response comes out from MKOI. World is my board. Keeps a couple members in place, but Demon Cat under fire pops up the Conductor of Souls, gets a lot of health back. Here comes Waji, tries to turn the tides, and now Luli being able to surprise the rest of the members of NRX. MKOI, with their farm laner back from the grave, makes them pay.
Mwaji going in there with a fantastic double kill. Definitely what they needed to get back into this game, right? This is the point for NRX is trying to defend this high ground turret. Can they do it? I mean, they are behind by 4k gold. They aren't going to be able to do it. It is Zhongfei with Dharma against the world. The Unbridled Light Burst catches 2, but it's not going to be enough.
MKOI not going to push their luck, though. They got what they came for in the high ground turret in the mid lane. They can continue leveraging pressure across the bot side of the map, taking the tier 2. They'll be able to yoink away the blue buff, and they still have 2 neutral objectives they can always play for. Get a chance to maybe redeploy, heal up some health bars off camps. Shadow Tyrant yoinked away by MKOI. For the side of NA Blam, I know that the fans of this team are just so relieved to see some life out of this squad.
Oh, absolutely. They'll be reinvigorated, right? They lost hope at certain points. I mean, we were all hoping for them, rooting for them with there being new blood into the esports scene, wanting to create a bit of a history for their esports career. And now with pride on the line, it's changed them into a bit of a different beast.
Red buff. I don't even know who stole it or secured it for the side of NRX. Looks like Six got it, but now the fight continues on the top side, making the dive happen into the tier 2, and NRX are just losing ground ever so quickly. MKOI continuing to leverage the pressure. Another execute from Demon Cat on the Demon, and now it's just only Ryuga left to defend the base, but I don't think it's going to happen. 1v4 I've seen never happen before. MKOI, they're going to push it into the Crystal, and ladies and gentlemen, MKOI, for the first time, 1-0 on the series. This could be MKOI making their first series win happen.
What a comeback. I mean, that's their quickest quickest game to date, I believe. 12 minutes, and especially being a victory in 12 minutes. Like, the first time they actually got a win on the board was when they played against Virtus Pro, and I believe that literally went all the way to around about 19-minute mark. So again, shaving 7 minutes off their first victory within the ranking week. But now they are back with a feistiness that they've clearly learned from VP in that last series. So once more, MKOI are here to prove that they are going to be going into the Survivor Week fighting.
That's right. It's games like this where you can prove to yourself as a relatively new squad